And I wish everybody, you and your families, very happy, prosperous New Year, and wish all the very best for all your plans, dreams in this year. So thank you for joining me today. So today is basically our second module that we are going to plan it, right? The first module we have been discussing SME, SME importance, issues SMEs are facing, and then how best we can help them out to manage their issues. And also we discuss about business plan, how we can help them, how we can support entrepreneurs in preparation of business plan. Also we discuss about SME policy, which has been put forward by the Sri Lanka, one of the ministries. So we have discussed that also. Presume that you have some kind of understanding, though that we have completed the first module in mid-December. We have not held classes for 3 consecutive days, I suppose. But today is a new beginning, new year. So we plan to, continue the sessions from today onwards each Saturday from 8:30 to 12:30 for our sessions. So today is the second, the module 2 that we are going to discuss with you today, and the next week I'm planning to cover module 2, where basically lending basics, guidelines for good lending. Actually, this is very important area where you need to understand that lending is most important thing, and proper sanctioning of credit is more important in order to manage the credit. Again, then අපි මොන කියන්නේ හැම අන්ඩර්ස්ටෑන්ඩින් එකක්ම හොඳයි. SME ගැන අපි කරගත්තා, මයික්‍රෝ ගැන දන්නවා, right? ඒ ඔක්කොමත් හරි. අපි ඊට පස්සේ අපේ වැදගත්ම කියන්නේ like backbone එක තමයි අපේ job එකේ lending. And being SME managers and SME credit officers, දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ main task is, give loans, recover them without any impact to the bottom line of the branch P&L. Just to get an understanding, now I think since that most of you are branch managers, how are you going to manage your branch? Like, do you have your own sort of, profitability targets in managing the branch? Sumit, can somebody answer my question? Like, දැන් අපි හිතමුකෝ branch එකක දැන් සමහර බැංකු වල තියෙනවා අපිට තියෙන්නේ lending volume targets. එතකොට අපි lend කරනවා, recover කරනවා business එක කියන්නේ branch එකෙන් ටිකක්, ඊට ටික centralized recovery කියනවා. හැබැයි අපිට branch එකේ profitability එක අපේ target එකක් නෙවෙයි. එහෙම නැත්නම් NPL එහෙම නැත්නම් impairment අපේ target එකක් නෙවෙයි. අන්න ඒ වගේ ඒ කියන්නේ මොන model එකේද ඔයගොල්ලෝ operate වෙන්නේ? Can somebody answer? So then based on that, I can tell you the importance of what we are going to do today. Ganeshan, anybody from brand manager or the credit officer, what's the like model you are having? Rashmika, Takshila, what is like Shan? What exactly how we are going to operate in the branch? කොහොමද branch එකේ structure එක? ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපි KPIs ගත්තොත් key performance indicators වගේ වන්නේ මොනවද branch එකේ? Yeah, somebody can suggest, somebody can answer my question. Sumit, Ganeshan? Already another branch manager කෙනෙක් අපිත් එක්ක. Is anybody branch manager here participating in our program? Can somebody speak up on where like කොහොමද අපේ දැන් branch එකක evaluation එක වෙන්නේ ඇත්තටම? සුමින්ද, රශ්මික, just to get an understanding what the model that you are having. Anybody can answer that question, or it's good that somebody can, outline. We can build on that. කොහොමද අපේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් operation එක වෙන්නේ දැන් branch එකක? So basically, what are your key performance targets හැටියට යන්නේ මොනවද? Volume targets, profitability targets, නැත්නම් ඒ දෙකමද කොහොමද?
So excuse me, that's both. Assets, liability, profit and NPL.
That's what I'm asking. So you have come to a long way. Means like those days, even at Nation Trust Bank, where I am working, we didn't have that profitability and NPL targets. You only have asset and liability, right? So you mean to say, Kanchana's equal weight may placed on each KPIs, right? Asset, liability, profitability, and NPL, right? So it is, let's say if you are a branch manager, hope you are, so your responsibility is manage all 4 KPIs. Am I right?
Yes.
Right. So I mean to say that you might be given some asset targets based on different products you have, right? Maybe SME, maybe retail products, or maybe corporate or whatever. You have been given targets, so you are supposed to achieve it at month on month and year end. Am I right?
Yes.
Right. For each asset or liability targets, not liability, assets, you have some NPL or non-performing component attached to it, the percentage. So you need to maintain that as well.
Yes.
Right. Most important thing is the profitability. Profitability is like profit before tax. I think per branch that you need to, first you need to break even, and then you need to have some profitability target maintained. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. So that is the kind of, the idea I want to get. So in that sense, the most important KPI in your whatever out of the 4 is profitability. Why I am telling that is, if you are intending to manage your profitability, you need NPL to manage, you need liability to manage, you need asset to manage, right? Why I am telling so NPL, basically, now the going forward now NPL is being treated, or in NPL being identified as your impairment target, right? ඉස්සර වගේ අර දැන් 2022 ජනවාරි දැන් සෙන්ට්‍රල් බැංකේ අලුතෙන් ආවා සර්කියුලර් එකක්. ඒකේ හැටියට ඉම්පයර්මන්ට් අර ස්ටේජ් 1, ස්ටේජ් 2, ස්ටේජ් 3 හැටියටම තමයි යන්නේ. අර ඉස්සර කිව්වා වගේ දවස් 90න් NPL ගේ කතන්දරයට වඩා වෙනස් වෙනවා. So එතකොට එතනදී ඔන්න ඉම්පයර්මන්ට් එක වැඩි නම් අපේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් බුක් එකට අපේ profit before tax එක අඩු වෙනවා. ඔන්න that it's a caution that you need to be aware with එක. Then you think about liability, for example. Liability වල කොහොමද අපිට impact එක වෙන්නේ? If you are sourcing the liability at a higher cost, then your margin, අපිට treasury එකට හරි නැත්නම් cost of funds will go up. If the cost of funds go up වෙනකොට what could happen here is your margins come down again, impacting the profitability. Asset obvious, because if you are not booking assets enough, right, at relevant margins, then you are not getting the adequate interest income, or also the fee income, right? Because on non-balance sheet items, off balance sheet items. So basically it comes to the credit, you need to understand, you need to manage your asset book and liability to some extent. Why I am saying liability, the ඉස්සර වගේ අර standalone liability market එක එච්චර lazy නෑ. Those days we have been, going behind clients and asking for deposits. Yes, it is working. Even right now it's working, but you need to think big, right? So you need to try to couple it with asset products, which we did very successfully at NDB and NTB. How we have done is like, so instead of, going behind only a liability product, you try to give asset to the particular client, maybe housing loan, maybe personal loan, maybe a SME loan. So then it is easy for us to, motivate, canvas them for liability as well. Just for example, let's say if you give a SME loan to a particular client, you can ask them to have 1 month, 2 month buffer installment with you. ඒ කියන්නේ අර හදිසි අන්තිම මොහොතේ ඩිපොසිට් එක දාන්න නැතුව ලෝන් ඉන්ස්ටෝල්මන්ට් එක ඉන්ස්ටෝල්මන්ට් එකක් හරි දෙකක් හරි අපි කියනවා කලින් තැම්පත් කරලා තියන්න. So it is in one of your savings accounts. අපි හිතමු ඒක if you can do out of your 100 SME client, if you can make it to say 50 SME clients, මොකද වෙන්නේ? Additional deposit එකක් වාට එනවා. Or else that you can ask route some cash flows. Then current account එක අපි නැති වුණාට you have some savings account, right? So you can ask them to route some business turnovers through us. එතනදී මොකද වෙන්නේ? savings balance එකක් අපිට ඉතුරු වෙනවා. Or else we can have a loan condition to say that have a sinking fund, margin build up, cash build up, 50,000 per month. So just keep on accumulating. There's another a saving proposition. තේරෙනවද මම කියන එක දැන් liability එක වෙනම හොයනවට වඩා අපිට lazy asset couple liability එකට යනකොට. So why I am telling is keeping the profitability in your mind. මේ හැම එකකම margin එකක් එකතු වෙනවා අර profitability එකට. Okay, so that's so asset liability perspective, how I am managing profitability. When come to the lending, especially keeping the impairment in mind, going forward, you need to know, you need to ensure proper booking of assets. When I say proper booking is not like those days, even a facility can be termed as NPL or can be impaired. The following day, you give a facility. Kanchana, basically, you are aware with the impairment, right? So you know kind of basic knowledge of impairment as branch managers and credit managers. Is it?
Yes.
Right. So because it's anyway, it's a part of the credit now, not like, it's a finance department, it's a credit risk department job. It's basically, it's our job, like front-end job, right? Understanding the impairment. I just, give some examples for the impairment so that you better understand about lending. Let's say now, if you give a facility to a client, maybe term loan, as per the previous central bank guidelines, if the client does not pay for consecutive 3 installments, we classify them as NPL. And then further, you can say sub-classification for the further extended period about, special mention and substandard, doubtful, loss, like that. So we can go on like that. So as per the previous central bank guideline, beyond 90 days only, we classify them as NPL and do provision. Provision කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? අන්න අපේ profitability එකට impact එකක් වෙනවා. Right. එතකොට as per the impairment ඒ වගේ අපිට chance එකක් නැහැ එතන. Impairment එකේදී කියන්නේ it could be current 0 to 30, right? 30 to 60, 60 to 90 කියලා, 90 and above කියලා buckets හැටියට තමයි ඒ කියන්නේ. එතකොට buckets හැටියට යනවා නම් ඒ buckets වලින් එක move වෙන්න stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 කියලා move වෙන්න පටන් ගන්නවා particular credit එක. If the client is in current, so we are very much better. Only a provision which is like a general provision been impacted, been targeted, been directed, and that kind of a sum take as an impairment provision. එතකොට 1 to 30, 30, 60, 60, 90 when the higher percentage being charged on your credit exposure. So what I'm telling is, even you give a facility within a very short period, if the things are not correct, if our evaluation is not correct, could become impairment target, impairment hit, right? And ඒක මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ first place. So not like those days with the impairment in operation in full swing, we need to understand we have a bottom line, we have a profitability impact when we extending credit or booking assets. So ඒක ගොඩාක් important to understand to your client, evaluate to your client and grant credit. අන්නේ concept එක මට මේ කියන්න ඕන වෙන්නේ දැන් හරි when you say lending basic, lending principles, good guidelines මේ ඔක්කොම අපිට important වෙනවා. Why? we need to manage impairment. We need to manage profitability. Keeping the end in mind, you need to start the day's work. කලින් අවස්ථාවේ ඔපෙච්චර ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැත්තේ when we are in fully operational with the central bank අපිට chance එකක් තිබ්බා. ඇතරම those days also impairment was there under FRS 9 LKS 37 ඒකත් ගිය ගමන් මේ දෙකම parallelly අපි ගියා. දැන් 2022 onwards අර central bank provisioning එක දැන් ඇත්තෙම නැහැ. impairment එක තමයි full swing එකේ අපි යන්නේ. ඒතර NPL classify වෙන client කෙනෙක්ව අපි කලින් විදිහට ඉම්පෙයාර් කරාට වඩා ඉක්මනට මේ ක්‍රමේදී අර මේ බකට් මූවමන්ට් එකත් එක්ක වෙනකොට වැඩි ප්‍රතිශත ප්‍රමාණයකින් ඉම්පෙයාර් වෙන්න ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා අපිට. That's one thing. එතකොට you need to keep very much focus on your credit acquisition, credit evaluation. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි දැක්කොත් මුලදී රෝග ලක්ෂණ යාගේ ක්‍රිබ් එක ටිකක් හොඳ නැහැ. නැත්නම් යාගේ කැරක්ටර් එකේ ප්‍රශ්න ටිකක් තියෙනවා. profit margins අඩුයි. එතකොට ඒව හින්දා ඒ කියන්නේ එයා ඔපරේට් වෙන මාකට් එකේ කම්පිටිෂන් වගේ ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. ඒවා නිසා අපිට ක්‍රෙඩිට් එක දීලා මාසයක් දෙකක් යනකොට අපිට තේරෙනවා මේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් එක deterioration කියන ස්ටේජ් එකට යනවා. Then we need to apply more provision. We have a bottom line impact. එක. දෙක තමයි once we do a credit, there may be chances the customer might not be able to service as expected. අපි ඉස්සරහදී කතා කරනවා because there may be so many internal issues, external issues which we have not predicted. එතකොට අපිට මේකට solution එකක් දෙන්න වෙනවා. What are the solution we can give? We can restructure, reschedule. So we need to do that. Even with the new recent circular in operation circulation, now central bank is not going to provide further moratorium. Instead, they have asked banks to treat these clients under internal guidelines with the separate unit form we call COVID-19 revival unit also. And then එක බේස් කරගෙන එතකොට අපිට කියනවා මේගොල්ලන්ට solutions දෙන්න. You can't take legal action up to 31st March කියලාත් කියලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපි හිතන තරම් ලේසි නැහැ මේ අපේ clients එක manage කරන්න. මේ හැම එකකම cost එකක් තියෙනවා. Not only time and effort, it's a financial cost. Financial cost එක කියලා කියන්නේ අර කියන profitability එක නැත්නම් impairment එක කියලා. එතකොට when you undertake restructures මොකද වෙන්නේ? Reschedulement. Then as per the impairment rules which has been also in the existence previously, අපි දැන් ඉන්න තැන ඉඳන් තව එකක් ඉස්සරහට යනවා. If right now we are in a 1 to 30 bucket, so once you do a restructure, the first restructure, you go to 30-60 bucket. ඊළඟ bucket එකට ගිහිල්ලා තමයි මාස 4ක watch period එකේ පස්සේ අපහු මේ පැත්තට එන්නේ. When you move to exposure from this bucket to this bucket, again you need to charge additional impairment. Right? So what I am telling you here is, as Kanchana rightly said, so you are basically, you have 4 KPIs like asset, liability, NPL and profitability. එතකොට මේ asset, liability, profitability, NPL manage කරනකොට you need to understand each has a very prominent role. Some time back අපිට ඇත්තටම ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙලා තිබුණේ නැහැ ඔය NPL එක. ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙලා තිබුණේ නැහැ impairment එක. ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙලා තිබුණේ නැහැ profitability එක. We are supposed to grow. branch එකේ අපි asset growth එකයි liability growth එකයි. So we are very happy, right? Even some banks actually what they have been doing is they go even after number of clients. How many customer identifications number CIFs කියලා අපි කිව්වා. customers ලා කීයක් onboard කරාද? හරි? ඒ කියන එක target එක. So basically it's a volume target. You have not very much worried about the quality, only quantity. Right? Then you also being evaluated with qualitative targets. ඒක තමයි impairment එක, ඒක තමයි NPL එක, ඒක තමයි profitability එක කියලා. අපි qualitative in the sense qualitative හින්දා හැදෙන quantitative figures ටිකකුත් තියෙනවා. So it is very much important to understand these concepts. Lending basics, good guidance. So මේවා හරියට කරොත් you can manage your NPL, you can manage your delinquencies, you can manage your recovery efforts, you can manage your impairment, you can manage your profitability. මොකද අඩුම ගානේ එකට යන වෙලාව හරි ආයේ අලුත් loan එකකට දාන්න පුළුවන් if you don't have any NPL contracts in your book. You getting my point? Not only financial impact, it's the time, right? The stress that you are carrying on, right? It is the effort. Then කවුරු හරි recovery manager එහෙම නැත්නම් අනිවාර්යෙන් recovery manager කෙනෙක් නැත්නම් we have to recover, right? Kanchana, do you have a centralized recovery unit also?
Yes, sir.
Right, so mean that at branch you are recovering up to some levels and then you are ask them to recover. Is it the model?
Branch level and head office level, both are
Attending, let's say the client falling into NPL, then?
Mainly, main thing is doing by branch level.
Okay.
Our recovery department also support
help
them.
you out. Right, but there is no like method like, you know, after falling into NPL that is being transferred to separate unit and they overlook with the branch supporting. No, you don't have that kind of a model yet.
Sorry?
Like let's say the facility moving into NPL, then in some banks what they do is that facility directly transfer to some specific unit in the bank. Let's say
no,
you don't have it. Still in the branch, you are the guardian, but recovery department will help you about sending letter of demand, legal action.
90% doing by branch level. Many things are doing that.
Right, so that means that you have a heavy workload, right? If the facility falls into NPL, if it is still that it's under your custody and you are focusing to recover that, means it's a not easy task, right? Because when NPL clients handling, right, sick customer handling, it's not easy, right? Totally different relationships, right? අර හොඳට කතා කරලා තේ එකක් දීලා right අපිත් එක්ක හිටපු හොඳට හිටපු මිනිස්සයා දැන් මොන හරි reason එකකට willful වෙන්න පුළුවන්, natural reasons වලට now it's in NPL, so you have to treat him differently. මොකද ඒක අපි වැඩිපුරම lenient වෙන්න කිව්වොත් අපිට සත පහක්වත් ආය වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. වැඩිපුරම tough වෙන්න කිව්වොත් සමහරලාට එයා වෙන වෙන මොන හරි දෙයකට ගිහිල්ලා බැංකේ image එක නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. so අර අපි කියනවා දැලිපිහින් කිරි කනවා වගේ job එකක් තමයි recovery. And some banks what they have done is like they have formed special units. ඒකට අපි කියනවා special asset management, remedial management එහෙම unit එකක් හදලා මේක පාක් කරනවා එතන. While branch is supporting them to recover, but they are specialized in recovery. ඒතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ කොහොමද දන්නව negotiations, එතකොට එහෙම නැත්නම් restructures, resettlements වගේ දේවල්, එහෙම නැත්නම් legal actions වලට යන දේවල්, හරි? So they know better. එතකොට එහෙමත් කරන අවස්ථා තියෙනවා, but you have not come to that level, so still it's like your baby, so you have a huge responsibility in terms of lending. එතකොට මම මේ කියාගෙන ගියේ ඇත්තටම අපිට තියෙන මේ lending වල වැදගත්කම, right? මොකද especially I took an example your branch, then as per Kanchana mentioned, now you have 4 main key performance indicators. ඒ හතරම වැදගත්. ඔය හතරෙන් එකක් හරි අවුල් වුණොත් අපේ ඉම්පැක්ට් එක අපිට පර්සනලි හම්බ වෙනවා, බ්‍රාන්ච් එකටත් යුනිට් එකටත් and zone එකටත් ඒ වගේම බැංකුවටත් එනවා. එතකොට අපි එහෙමනම් how we can minimize the effort and time and financial cost in NPL and impairment අපි කරන්නේ කොහොමද? If you do the right approval, right sourcing of the credit. ඒක කරන්න අපි try කරමු using this today's session. ડોક્ટર මට කරන්න ඕනෙත් එහෙම. දැන් අපි හැම වෙලේම දැන් පරණ ඒවා එහෙම තිබුණාට කමක් නැහැ. See, tomorrow onwards, when you are trying to acquire a new credit, so try to use some of these models that we are studying. Then you might have been deployed some models, but you know, try to go to the basics. පුළුවන් තරම් basics වලට ගිහිල්ලා වැරදි අඩු කරගන්න. Right? So sometimes I am telling in many forums, like let's say when your general manager comes and visit a client, so he might ask few questions, like 1 to 10 questions, and then he says, right, he's a good person, okay for this exposure, so you can, you know, continue with the detailed evaluation කියලා එයා decision එකක් ගන්න. සමහරවිට අපේ credit officer කෙනෙක් ගියොත් ඔය ප්‍රශ්න 10 නෙවෙයි ප්‍රශ්න 100ක් ඇහුවත් we are yet to come to a final conclusion about this person's credit qualification for a particular credit. So ඒ වෙන්නේ මොකද? එතන තියෙන experience එක. Especially when you undertake SME micro type of clients, you need that. So the credit එක අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් එකක් art එකක් science එකක්. දැන් අපි theoretically මේ ඔක්කොම models ඔක්කොම බලන් ගියොත් it's a science. අපි ගත්තා එතකොට 6Cs හරි වෙන මොන හරි මොඩල් එකක් පාවිච්චි කරා. එහෙම කරලා මේ client ගේ මෙන්න මේ මේ ටික හොයාගත්තා. So as per the these tools මෙයා okay for this කියලා කිව්වට but experience is different. එතකොට එයාගේ behavior එක, එයා කතා කරන විදිහ, එයා හැසිරෙන විදිහ, එතකොට එයාගේ ගතිගුණ ඒවා අපි බැලුවහම qualitatively බලලා අපේ තියෙන experience එකත් එක්කත් couple කරලා කිව්වම right he is good he is bad කියලා ඒක is a different call especially on this SME type of clients. ඒක තමයි අපි art එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. So as credit managers, branch managers, credit officers, we need to develop both skills. Right? Scientific skill එකත් ඕනේ and artistic එකත් ඕනේ. මොකද අපිට අපේ හම්බෙන ගොඩක් අයට scientific data, quantitative data, confirmed data, verified data අපිට දෙන්න බෑ. They don't have financials. They are not operating proper books and accounts. They don't have business plans to most cases. They don't have a firm like, you know, the very good structured companies or vision objectives කියන කතාන්දර they don't have it. අපි ආසයි තියෙනවා නම් but they don't have it. අද කරන එක නෙමෙයි හිත කරන්නේ. හරි? එකපාර if they see opportunity then ඊළඟ සතිය යනකොට ඔයාලට මේ කඩේ වහලා වෙන මොකක් හරි අලුත් බඩු ටිකක් කරගෙන he might have started. එතකොට very turbulent people. එතකොට අපිට එහෙමනම් අපි මේ ඉගෙන ගන්න හැම දෙයකම experience perspective, qualitative perspective අපිට ඕනේ client identify කරගන්න. Right? Those are some precursors that I want to share because these are very practical, which we have learned over a period of time. අපිට දැන් අවුරුදු දෙකෙන් තුනෙන් අපිට කොච්චර theoretically අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තත් it doesn't work when you go to the ground level. I think you may be vouching for that because it is not easy to identify the SME clients, micro clients, හරි women entrepreneurs. මේ ලේසි නෑ මේගොල්ලන්ට ණය දෙන එක. මොකද දැන් අපි කිව්වට අපි අපේ තියෙන experience එක පාවිච්චි කරලා trade knowledge එක එහෙම නැත්නම් credit knowledge එක environment එක ඒ business ඒ පැත්තේ කියන්නේ අපේ context හරහා reference හරහා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ right මෙයා මෙන්න මේ වගේ credit එකට හොඳයි. ඊට පස්සේ yes we will try to validate verify the facts that we are getting, qualitative quantitative facts through these models. ඒක තමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් credit evaluation එකකදී එහෙම නැත්නම් credit හරි credit එකක් identify කර ගන්නට කරන්නේ. Okay. Before further moving into the session, and now I am asking two questions from you. එකක් තමයි අපි හිතුවොත් අපි credit එකක් දෙනකොට අපි errors දෙකක් අපිට වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එකක් තියෙනවා type 1 error කියලා, අනිත් එක type 2 error කියලා කියනවා. The type 1 error would be you try to give a loan to a bad customer assuming he is a good, right? You are trying to give, you are onboarding a client assuming he is good but actually he is bad. Type 2 error කියලා කියනවා you are rejecting a good client. I mean you are not onboarding a good client assuming he is bad. ඔන්න ඔය කියන 1, 2 and කියන errors දෙක generally අපිට වෙන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් because we are credit managers, officers, branch managers, we are discussing and so we are planning to onboard new clients for assets and different products in your book. එතකොට ඔය කියන type 1 and type 2 errors දෙක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඕගොල්ලන්ට හිතෙන විදිහට ඔය type 1 error 2 error දෙකෙන් වැඩිපුරම branch එකට bank එකට impact එකක් තියෙන්නේ මොකකින්ද? Especially thinking about your 4 KPIs, asset, liability, NPL, impairment or profitability කියලා හිතන ඒවත් එක බැලුවොත් එම මේ 1 and 2 errors වලින් which has the most impact කාටද කියන්න පුළුවන්? කසුන්, චාන්, ගණේෂන්, සුමිත්, සුමින්ද, what is the highest impacted error, 1 or 2? Kanchana, others also can speak up. එතකොට තමයි මේක චුට්ටක් ඉන්ටරැක්ටිව් වෙන්නේ. අර නැත්තම් මේ අපි කතා කරනකොට අනිත් අයටත් එක්ක ෂෙයා වෙනවා. එතකොට පොඩක් මේකේ අර අදහස් ගොඩක් මතුවෙලා එනවා. so better මේකද මේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් අද අපි තනිකරම කරන්නේ අද ඉන්න සතියේ අර ගොඩක් ඉම්පෝටන්ට් ඒරියා එකක් හින්දා ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ evaluation එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ knowledge එක හරි වටිනවා. right? මොකද I am also learning something. You also can learn by sharing your views, experience. Because we have enough time. I won't share and I won't make a very interactive session. කිව්වොත් මොකද්ද type 1 errorද type 2 errorද අපිට වැඩිපුරම impact එකක් වෙන්නේ. 1 error 1 කියලා කියන්නේ අපි bad customer කෙනෙක් on board කරනවා එයා හොඳයි කියලා හිතලා 2 කියලා කියනවා හොඳ customer කෙනෙක් reject කරනවා එයා නරකයි කියලා. Which one we should avoid? ඔය වෙන්න පුළුවන් දේවල්නේ අපිට.
In short-term time periods, I guess onboarding bad customer, assuming he is good, is more impact on branch. And in long time period, long term, rejecting a good customer, assuming he is bad, is not good.
Very good answer, Sumit. Actually, even I have not thought about this, the time perspective, but you are spot on. Thank you so much, right? It's a great answer, right? So he was telling very spontaneous, right? That is spot on answer, short term and long term. He actually thinks about his branch impact, right? Perfect. So actually the type 1 error has the most devastating impact, right? Not even only short term, Sumit, it could have gone to the long term impact also if we are unable to recover it soon. මොකද දැන් අපිට ඔය කියන NPL profitability target එක තියෙනවා නම් if the customer bad debt කෙනෙක් අපි අතුලට ගත්ත ගමන් what happen? එතකොට short term immediate impact on impairment NPL ඊට පස්සේ අපේ profitability එකට impact පටන් ගන්නවා impact එක. මොකද එයා නරක customer කෙනෙක්නේ. ඒකට එයාගෙන් ඇත්තටම අපිට ආදායමක් එහෙම නැත්නම් income එකක් ගන්න බෑ. නමුත් පටන් ගත්ත දවසේ ඉඳන්ම liability එකක් වෙන client කෙනෙක්. Then what could happen here is, so we are onboarding a bad guy, assuming he is good, and so from day one we are suffering. There are huge impact, right? Short and even medium to long can be depending on how well you are managing that guy. You are equally correct when you say very good guy, you are rejecting, right? So if he is with you, what could happen is medium to long term, he give so many inputs to you, income, cross-selling, upselling, so many income streams. Plus, he might refer some very good clients also in future. You lose that opportunity also. So, type 1 has a huge impact, a major impact. Type 2, we don't have that impact compared to type 1 error. But you should avoid both, I must say. Because we should not do the type 1 error or type 2 error. That's a typical, a real, a good lending. But we do as per paper, as per theoretical study, we can say, but practically it could be otherwise. But as much as possible, we should try to minimize both 1 and 2 error types, right? I presume that you have a kind of some knowledge on lending, credit, what's all about good lending kind of thing, why we need to do it. We try to use some branch KPIs. එතකොට ඒ ටික ඔක්කොම බේස් කරගෙන අපි පොඩි අදහසක් ගත්තා මේ lending කියන එකක importance කියන එක තමයි මේ සාකච්ඡා කරන්නේ. ඒක theoretically it's very important. bank එකේ balance sheet නැත්නම් P&L එකටත් ඒක important. ඒ වගේම තමයි branch perspective, which is most important, since that you also been evaluated on these 4 KPIs, right? So then we'll move on with the today's presentation. Basically, we try to understand introduction to credit, type of borrowers and business sectors, guidelines for good lending credit culture, classification of credit facilities, advanced securities, rate appraisal. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ පහ තමයි අපි මේ module 2 එක හරහා ඉගෙන ගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. So we'll start with introduction to credit. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, you are free to ask, free to argue, free to have your own views, so that we can further work on that and then get further fine-tuned or further clarified. credit can be defined in different perspective, in different disciplines. If you take in finance field, credit කියලා කියන්නේ is a granting of a loan and creation of a debt. In banking, in finance, we say credit කියලා අපි කියනවා granting of a loan, granting of a credit facility and creation of debt. කියන්නේ ණයක් හැටියට ඒක instrument එකක්, debt instrument එකක් create කරන එක තමයි අපි credit කියලා කියන්නේ. Credit means loans and other advances. So credit further defined as loans and advances. So since that here we come up with two words, though it's not very much practically important, but good to know and theoretically, if in case that if we get a kind of a question for your evaluation, what is the difference between loan and advances theoretically? The loans කියන්නේ මොනවද general, advances කියලා අපි හඳුනගන්නේ මොනවද? Can anybody suggest it? What's the difference between loans and advances? Suminda? Kasun? Ganeshan? Any thoughts? What's the difference between loans and advances? Generally, advances the facilities we grant and the booked and operated within 1 year. If the tenure of the facility is less than 1 year, more or less the working capital type of financing, advances overdraft, short-term revolving credit are advances. Loans generally facilities which exceeding a tenure of 1 year. That's purely theoretical, but good to know. Like facilities within 1 year, we call advances, mainly working capital financing. Beyond 1 year, we terms as loans for the identification purposes. Right? In finance, again, I'm telling credit is granting a loan, creation of a debt. Commercial transaction, commercial trade credit approval for delayed payment for purchase goods. Right? So that's what we call debtor creditor. Creditor used to refer approval for delayed payment. Right? Approval for delayed payment. So we take some goods for credit. We supply it. So we take some goods, we purchase goods, but we are planning to pay in future, not a day itself. So credit credit note. So that is in the commercial trade. In today's perspective, then mama vouch especially Kanchana was telling me what are the KPIs in the branch. Right? Nowadays, we are doing credit management function compared to lending credit function which we have been doing some time back. When you say lending, we are not very much worried about the recovery or follow-up, managing the post-sanction credit. Right? When just say credit, it's again we think of giving something, giving, not recovery. But when you say credit management, it is a function starting from A to Z. Identify, or rather business development or marketing, identify a client, gathering information, analyzing the information, evaluating the preparation of the credit note, approval of the credit note, disbursement, limit marking, legal documentation related, follow-up, monitoring, recovery. Then ඔය කියන functions ඔක්කොම ටික අපි කියනවා credit cycle එකක තියෙන credit steps ටික කියලා. ඒතර ඔය ටික ඔක්කොම it's part of your job as a credit manager. ඒකට අපි කියනවා credit management කියලා. Now as Kanchana suggested, right now also you are doing the same thing, right? එතකොට පටන් ගන්න තැන ඉඳන් අන්තිම වෙනකන් it's your responsibility. You have a very active role in each stage. Then marketing එක මම නෙවෙයි කරන්නේ, මට loan එකක් ගෙනත් දෙනවා කවුරු හරි කියලා මම seat එකේ ඉන්නවද නැහැ. credit එක මගේ නෙවෙයි, centralized credit underwriting එහෙ කරන්න කියලා ඉන්නවද නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් disbursement එක credit admin unit එකේ it's not my duty කියලා ඉන්නවද නැහැ. credit එක sanction කරා ඊට පස්සේ yes central unit has to monitor call collection එකකින් කරන්න කියලා ඉන්නවද නැහැ. If the facility goes into bad hands, so it's not my baby and there is a special unit and they have to look after even the legal department කියලා ඉන්නවද නැහැ. Right? It's from A to Z, it's your responsibility. You are at it for every time. මොකද you have an impact on your bottom line. In PL hari impairment hari profitability hari impact ena. If you are let it go, then this bucket to this bucket, high impairment, low profitability. So you have to recover as much as possible. You have to manage the credit as much as possible. So that's we call credit management. If somebody asks what's the meaning of credit management, it's basically a credit management is a complete function of credit granting, following up, recovery. අපි KTM කියෝ loan එක දෙනවා, follow up කරලා recover කරන එක තමයි ඒ ඔක්කොම process එක manage කරන එක අපි කියවා credit management කියලා. Any questions? Any clarifications? Hope you also doing the same function at being branch managers or the credit managers. As what I am getting from Kanchana's input is correct, I think you are responsible in each case. Is it, Kanchana?
Yes, we have separate credit administration units.
Right.
For granting and loan opening processes.
Right.
The other functions are doing by branch level.
Branch. But do you have a separate legal department?
Yes.
But they also support you in terms of title clearance, mortgage bond and all that.
Yes.
But
and we have a centralized approval in CCD unit.
Right. But even centralized approval unit, but you are responsible to collect the information, gather information, collect and send to that CCD unit, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you might have some business development or some support people other than the credit officers in the branch.
Yes. Okay. Centralized business department.
Right. Right. So basically means that ultimately being the the total owner, you are responsible to the total process, but there are some departments to you support, like when you say centralized approval unit, that's fine. But again, what they do is based on the information you submit, they approve. I think ඒක approve කරා කියලා ඉවර වෙලා ඒකේ හොඳ නරක ඔයා බාර ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම legal, yes, they will give input on the legal terms that in order to get efficient disbursement, you have to coordinate with them, and get the legal documents right and then do that. Even administration department, it's not easy to work with them. So you have to have everything in right as per the credit paper. You have to collect all the documents, signatures in place and all that. And then they do the disbursement. So, I mean, in overall, as Kanchana mentioned, the credit management is a function, is like, a combination of these activities I'm managing, but that has been supported by, different units and different people in an organization, right? This is basically that what we have been discussing. Provision of credit and its recovery. You can have loan granting and recovery. Steps manage process credit management carried out by effectively and efficiently. So that's what I'm telling, because efficient effective but when you say effective, time bound if you take 100 days to give a credit, in terms of customer, in terms of branch, in terms of income. we try to give it as much as possible, within a shortened period. Over the counter, you can't give a credit, but it takes some time because you need to evaluate, get the information, right? You need to validate, right? Preparation of documentation. There's so many things, but there may be average time period, right? Even at NTB, how much we say that we are trying to give in like 2-3 weeks, but sometimes it going beyond 1 month, depending on the credit type. දැන් අපි මිලියන 50 60ක 100ක එකක් යනකොට අපිට කියන සතියෙන් දෙකෙන් දෙන්න බෑ. But average years we are trying to give it within a month or so, right? But I think you also in that same category, but you can't give a credit at overnight, or even I don't think we can facilitate within a week, because if the mortgage bond and all that is involved, right, you have to visit the property, get the valuation and valuation verification, so many things that you need to do. So again, the efficient වෙන්නත් effective වෙන්න you need to do in the right thing, right? So basically, if the credit is not proper, it's not accurate, right? එහෙමනම් අපි මේ කලබලයට මේක කළ වැඩකුත් නැහැ. මොකද it is end up with NPL, it's end up with higher impairment charges. එතකොට හරි acquire කරන තැන, කියන්නේ හරි credit එකක් කරනවා කියන එකත් අපිට වැදගත්. So the process should have two parts: efficient, effective. It should bring benefits to the lender and borrower. That's a win-win situation. That's what I'm telling. Like api credit එක evaluate කරනකොට we need to manage, we need to preserve some basics, and also it is a win-win proposition for client as well as the bank. We can't give at a very low interest rate and say customer is happy and we are not getting adequate funds. No, you can't do that, because we need to manage adequate margin to support your processing and cost of funds and all that. Similarly, a customer also, because he also committing with some kind of equity and all that, with time bound agreed plan, so we need to give it right and timely and whatever for the interest that he is paid to us. So it's a win-win. If you take in the client perspective also, then එයාට ඔක හැමතැනින්ම ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් අපි ගාවට එන්නේ නැහැනේ. So again, එතකොට අපි හැබැයි එන එකට සාධාරණයක් කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි මාස අවුරුදු ගණන් loan එකක් delay කරන්න කියන එක නෙවෙයි. අපි we need adequate time in order to assess properly. ඊට පස්සේ අපි පුළුවන් තරම් ඒක sanction කරලා monitor කරලා client what we try to go to the next level. So basically credit management කියන function එක මෙන්න මේ කියන කොටස් වලින් සමන්විත වෙනවා. සමහරවිට අපෙන් ඇහුවොත් to write a short note, so what do you understand by the credit management? So you need to give an answer in terms of evaluation. I am telling your own words. Basically it's like A2 is a kind of activity. These are the activity. We are trying to do it effectively and efficiently. It's a win-win proposition. So like that kind of a explanation using your own words. Define but make sure, keep in mind, credit or the lending versus the credit management are two different perspectives. Propositions, disciplines. Hope you understand that. Okay. If you have any question, please raise, right? This is a bit of historical perspective. I have used coinage in ancient times. There is no recorded history of banking prior to the 17th century. That's about history. So the banking has not been, existence in Sri Lanka prior to 17th century. Chettiars, a migrant business community from South India, introduced a financial service system akin to banking during the Dutch period, and it continued. When Dutch was rule in our country, so the people called Chettiars from South India introduced some form of financial service system in Sri Lanka. Their intrusion helped only the affluent sector of the community who had connection with foreign entrepreneurs. That's how a form of banking started in Sri Lanka, like plantation sector, coffee, tea, rubber. So during British period, so there are people who ran the kind of the plantation sector, and then so they started. So they are in kind of the process of operating financial service system in Sri Lanka. That's how the history started. With the expansion of trade with India and European countries, many banks were set up by British businessmen because with they being entrepreneurs, they wanted kind of some facilitations to transfer funds and goods from country to country. So they started some banking institutions in Sri Lanka. 1841, first commercial bank, Bank of Ceylon, was established. So crash 1840 with the coffee crisis and had a devastating the country's economy. Like then, so those days also crashing, liquidation was taken place. Actually, this was purely historical stats, right? So some kind of the instability taken place. So during those days as well. Many foreign banks were operating during the period involved only in foreign trade in the island. They provide assistance to the local and development activities. So even those days, actually, those were intended for a particular class, and they actually made sure that it has not been passed to the local businessman. So that was the kind of the operations taken place those days. Hatton Bank, 1888, later HNB, 1920, Eastern Bank, later Commercial Bank. So මෙන්න මේ විදිහට තමයි මේ HNB කියන commercial bank එක අද තියෙන ඒවා ඉදිලා තියෙන්නේ. Local business community canvassed the British government for better banking to expand their business as they could not compete with the British businessmen and planters. So the original entrepreneurs were the British businessmen and the planters. So it's a local business at that time. So they pushed and they wanted also same facilities, right? Because otherwise they could not compete with these guys who has a better prospects those days, right? So that's how a bit of the history in Sri Lankan banking, which is good for your general understanding, not for exam or related thing, because I just want to share, this is the first time that we are trying to understand about the credit in Sri Lanka or the credit function. So that's why I wanted to introduce some of these facts. Right. British government did not want to establish Mr. George Edmund, member State Council, so Ceylonius Bank, right? So like that, these are some of the things that created in August 1939. Bank of Ceylon is being created, and which has been a supportive initiative to the local businessmen and the entrepreneurs, right? That's it. So that's about a bit of history, right? Good to know whenever you are trying to learn something, what actually happened in ancient days, or historical impact, historical perspective, right? So this is very important slide, right? This could be maybe tested in for exams also if given. So make a kind of a extra effort on this slide. So we'll try to discuss in one by one, because very important in terms of economies, right? Even in Sri Lankan economy, right? What is our role as bankers, right? So importance of credit to emerging economies like Sri Lanka, right? Developing economies. Vicious cycle, poverty cycle, right? So what happened here is, if we are not in a position to support local businessmen, entrepreneurs, then at some point these economies could collapse because they don't have adequate money to expand beyond some point, right? Even right now you see the higher inflationary levels are recorded, right? So bank credits are important, right, to finance some of the initiatives. Similarly, in a country, you have different economic segment. We also have identified the people below the poverty line. So in in terms of microfinancing, yeah, we are very much focus on this sector in order to make them sustainable in terms of quality of life, in terms of standard of living, right? So because while we are trying to make in some money, so we need to bring these people to the next level by supporting economically. If these things are not happening, so these people are ever been in this vicious or the poverty level. So that's the most important part in terms, especially for banks like you and the people who are very much interested in lower segment of SMEs and small businesses, to support them adequate financing or credit, because using the credit facilities, so they can improve their business activities and contribute to economy while contributing themselves. If you are not going to give them, then they are eternally in this poverty cycle or vicious cycle. They can't come up with that, come out of that. It is not good in terms of economy, obviously, because like what happens if it is not so, like Jana Savia, some of these, so eternally you need to support them as grants and aid, which is not good, because those money again is an indirect impact to the other people, right? So just like giving grant, just like aid will not help them. So you have to support them. Yes, initially it could be grant, but some value addition to their businesses, some economic activities. දැන් අර සල්ලි නිකන් අරගෙන ගෙදර ඉඳන් කාලා බිලි ඊළඟ මාසේ එනකොට සල්ලි ටිකක් එනකම් බලන් ඉන්න කියන තත්ත්වයට වඩා මොකක් හරි entrepreneurial activity එකක් identify කරගන්න, ඒකට ෆන් කරනවා, ඒකෙන් business එක චුට්ටක් උඩට එන ගමන් ණයත් service කරලා savings habit එකකටත් අපි ගේනවා. So එතකොට අන්න ඒ target market එකට credit supply කරන එක economy එකක් පැත්තෙන් අපිට important කියන එක තමයි point number 1 කියලා කිව්වේ. නැත්තම් they may be ever being in the poverty or the vicious cycle impacts. Number 2, you know, in a country we have 3 components of GDP, that consumption, savings and investment. So we need to support credit to have adequate consumption activities, investment activities and saving activities. Just further elaborate, let's say now you are an entrepreneur. Anyway, you have some money to invest in a venture that you are planning to. And then when you are trying to do that, at some point, your existing whatever savings or your equity is going to be over. But beyond that, you want some support to grow the business. Because if you are not going to do that, then you can't have more investment on the business, which means that you can't grow beyond that. But if you can't do further growth, then you don't have adequate money, maybe for the service or the consumption. Outside support, maybe they are relatives, maybe they are friends, maybe the banks, or even money lenders, then they can give some money. So it's a value creation. Economic activities, make growth, more money for consumption and the savings. But the reinvestment, then there may be a rest of money can be a consumption, can be savings. May savings again can be investment in another form or another business. So in order to, if it is a cake like that, you can enrich it. You need to infuse more consumption, more savings, more investment. You need outside support. More investment. Consumption savings then why it is important for us being bankers? Yes, we are targeting some clients. Targeting client we have asset, liability and profitability targets, right? How can we give more assets if the clients are at the same level? You can't. How can get me liabilities if the client doesn't have enough to save? How can give further loan the customers to grow if there is no investment perspective? We should give credit. Then their consumption level go up. Then there are more savings in terms of us, their relatives, kids, and all that. More funds, more growth, investment. They go to the next level, value addition. More income to them, more income to us. So, economy එක්කෙනෙකුට දෙන්නෙකුට 100කට ලක්ෂයකට දෙනකොට economy is going up. මොකද අපි දැන් මේ දෙන credit එක අර savings එකෙන්ම මේකක් දෙනවා. එතකොට මේක is like a cycle. So, necessity of a savings, credit for consumption and investment purposes. So, a credit is again important for emerging markets to have more C's, more I's, more S's. Formal, informal lending. What is that? So, credit is again important for formal lending, first place. What is formal lending? That's what we are doing, right? Because we need to give lending facilities to the client and individuals, right? And then that will support for their purchasing power, for their economic activities, even the informal lending. Because now, informal lending also is another way of giving credit. But if we do more formal lending, we can manage the informal lending. I then clients like money lenders. That means there may be some issues with our value chain, our process. සමහරට අපි කාලේ වැඩිපුර ගන්නවා. සමහරලාට අපි title clear කරන්න කාලයක් වැඩිපුර ගන්නවා. title අපිට clear නැහැ. අපි වැඩිපුර evaluation එකට fax ඉල්ලනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් client does not have adequate information which we are asking. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි risk appetite එක ටිකක් වැඩි අඩුයි. එතකොට client we can't onboard the clients. ඒකින්ද clients යනවා informal lending වලට. But the informal lending කියන එකත් regulate කරගන්න පුළුවන් if we do more formal lending. For that, credit is important. අපි දැන් ණය දෙනවා නම් අපිට පුළුවන් clients ලව control කරන්න. Regulate කරන්න. So we can request them not to go after informal lenders, money lenders, because we can give them a proper credit. Take off economic growth and development. That's again very important. Now, economic development, regional development, economic growth are all part of a credit. And like if you take Sri Lanka, we need to do bigger projects. Let's say harbor, airport, highways, right? For that, we don't have adequate sources of funds. So we go to bilateral, multilateral, institutional, foreign institutions. We get some loan facilities. Then we have this investment coming up, which gives more better economic activities, saving of time, value addition to the economy, more employment opportunities, technical transfers, dollar flows. So local even tourism. ඒ ඔක්කොම වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒ වැඩි වෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ then countries GDP is going up, economic growth, economic development එකක් වෙනවා. But if we don't have that investment, let's say just for argument's sake, say one airport for the Sri Lanka, but instead of one, if we have two, what could we do? So more tourists, more inbound clients. එහෙම නැත්නම් එකක් අපිට budget එකක් හැටියට කරන්න පුළුවන්. budget airport එකක්. So reduce cost. Many people would come. And ඒක facilitate කරනවා. තවත් ඒකට couple කරපු tourist hotel හරි interactions දෙතෙන්ට ගෙනල්ලා. That is a viable proposition. Then in case of emergency මේක වැහෙනකොට තව එකක් ඉතුරු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So sometimes it's good for economy because we expect more, say, imports, clients, more exports, facilitate කරනවා. හැබැයි as a country, as a private sector, we don't have enough money to pump, to start that. We then go for international credit. It should be some viable economic activity. අපි එක හදලා ඉවරලා ඒ loan එක ගෙවන්න ගියාම අපිට ආයෙත් සල්ලි ඕන වෙනවනේ. Sometimes some of our investments are now people are complaining which are not thought through. Hence that we are experiencing some higher debt payment කියලා දැන් අපි කියන්නේ. එතකොට සමහරවිට අපි expect කරපු economic එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒ value addition එක අපිට ආවේ නැති නිසා. Development cycle එක. So that's like a vicious cycle එකේ අනිත් පැත්ත. එතකොට අපිට මේ growth එක වෙන්න එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ economy එක grow වෙන්න මේක develop වෙන්න අපිට credit එක ඕනේ. Vicious කියලා කියන්නේ people who are in the poverty line. So they are eternally there if you are not supporting. The development cycle is now it's in the other side. So that again we need to give some money to the cycle to happen. So there may be various stages, maybe investment stage, we need to support. Or there may be somewhere down the line, their consumption stage, people need money because then they want to spend out. Right? Even at then example now, maybe personal loans that you are giving for many customers, housing loan, or maybe credit cards. What's the importance of those things? So people need money now by way of personal loan, by way of credit card limits. Then they go and market and they consume. හරිද? consume කරනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? කාගේ හරි product එකක් නේ අපි ගන්න. So it's a support to that entrepreneur. එතකොට value addition එකක් වෙනවා. එතකොට in order to pay that, so we are employed somewhere. We are getting the money. එතකොට මේක development cycle එකක් හැටියට ආපහු යනවා දැන්. අරක bottom එකේදී අපි මොකුත් නොකර ඉන්නකොට එන්න negative ගිහිල්ලා ඒක තවත් poverty line එකට යනවා. මේ පැත්තේ if you are giving some money to consumption, savings and investment මේකත් අර further cake එක තවත් ලොකු වෙනවා with value addition. මේ දෙකම සඳහා credit අවශ්‍යයි. Employment creation. Nothing to mention about that. So credit is a requirement. When you give more and more credit, more and more investment, more and more financial support to a firm, then they can offer a lot of job opportunities, which in turn helps to reduce unemployment rate, reduce the idle time of workers, right? It's a positive impact. Then SME development. What is that? That's anyway you and everybody is trying to do. So we try to support SME clientele in a country, in a region, right? So we need to develop them to next level, to their businesses, both qualitative and quantitative support, financial and financial support. So where the credit can be, I mean, so many things that you can mention, right? Credit can be a tool where so many things in a country being achieved by providing adequate credit, by providing timely credit, by providing effective and efficient credit. We can make sure a country goes to a next level very easily without any other kind of a what do you call concession, any other government support. දැන් අපි රටක් හැටියට අපිට හරියටම banks ටිකට එකතු වෙලා if we can do a credit function, then we can have more and more input support to GDP in the country. But the thing is, when you are making decision regarding the investments, you need to make sure those investment give adequate return. එතන තමයි අපිට තියෙන question. Like if you take a macro model, that's about country, I just mentioned. Micro, maybe you thinking giving money to a client. එතකොට ඔයා තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ ඒ client ඒ facility එක දුන්නාට පස්සේ ඒකෙන් adequate return එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. Let's say a client coming and asking to open up a reception hall, let's say in the rural area. එතකොට එයා කතා කරොත් right, I am going to have 3-story මේ විදියට super everything would be like imported ඔක්කොම දාලා එයා කරනවා මිලියන 100ක investment එකක් කරන proposal එකකුයි එහෙම නැත්නම් scale down කළා he might be doing some 30-40 million investment එකකුයි එනවා. ඔය දෙකේ වෙනස මොකක්ද කියලා බැලුවොත් like the 100 million වෙනකොට එයා නිකන් it's like Hilton model, right? When comes the other one is a 2-star 3-star hotel type. So what is your view and decision? Compare the client being rural area, right? එතකොට ඒ පැත්තකට හදන එකක are we encouraging the client to go about 100 million investment or 30 million investment in general? You need more information, but just for the argument's sake, being a credit manager, being the branch manager, being the credit officer.
30 million investment.
30 million. Right. Any other argument? Any other views? Kanchana, Sumit?
I also think 30 million.
Yeah. So, though that there's a limited information, yeah, you mentioned it correct. Then actually we think about the market, think about return on investment, think about the people who is planning to visit the premises, like the demand. Very important, right? Then අපි කියනවා අද rural area එකක මිලියන 100කට හැදුවත් සමහරලාට clients like AV. But the point here is you can't charge that much from those clientele. Hilton type එකට හදපු එකකට plate එකකට 750ක් දෙන මිනිහෙක් එයි. හැබැයි if you are charging 5,000 from the rural area, you don't have any clients. Because you need to charge 5,000 in order to manage your investment. හැබැයි ඒක ඒ competition එකට ඒ market එකට does not work. If the same guy is operating a hotel in, let's say, suburb in Colombo, like Hilton, yes, you may say, yes, it's a good move. මොකද දැන් Hilton එකේ තියෙන මොඩල් එකම බොරලස් ගමේ හරි තලවතු ගොඩ හරි කොහේ හරි තැනක හදනවා නම් ඒක work out වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද people wanted the same experience than going to Central Colombo, being here, but there's a fluent class whom you can source, you can sell the proposition. But when come to the rural, when come to the area where the most people, yes, they want the reception hall to have their wedding, their functions, they are happy, but they have some, dispensable income, disposal income. So the income that they can manage to pay for a wedding, to have a wedding, maybe plate එක 1000, 1005 range එකට වඩා යන්න බැරි වෙයි ඒගොල්ලන්ට. When you say 5,000, they might not come. So you don't have adequate business. That's එතකොට ඒ investment එකට අපි finance කරනවා නම් අන්න කල්පනා කරන්න ඕනේ whether we get the adequate return. එතකොට අපිත් හිර වෙනවා, client උත් හිර වෙනවා. We might say we give 50, the client put 50, but the value for money, return on investment is not that great. හැබැයි 30 million එකකට ගියොත් what you can do is within that 30 million you might have 2 restaurants or whatever reception halls at an average, maybe third one with AC or whatever bit advanced. අන්න පළවෙනි එකේ කරොත් 1,005, දෙවෙනි එකේ 1,750, or maybe the top one with maybe reservations like, but maybe you can charge maybe 2,000 plate for the limited crowd. And ඒකට සමහර වෙලාවට upselling වලින් client කෙනෙක් ගේන්න පුළුවන්. පළවෙනි එක්කෙනාට කරන වෙඩින් එක මෙහෙම කරලා දෙවෙනි එක්කෙනාට ඊට වඩා අඩු cost එක අඩු reception එකක් එක්ක he might ready to pay 2,000 because now the loyalty will work. Right? එතකොට අන්නේ proposition එක much better. Because there are maybe even good, clients that they are willing to have a bit of higher receptive experience. එතකොට there may be maximum limit you can go. හැබැයි මුළු ඔක්කොම 2000 පටන් ගන්න 5000ට යනකම් ගියොත් you don't have adequate clients. So that is the proposition that we can give to the client. So ඒ වගේ එකක් තමයි අපි බලන්න ඕනේ investment එකකට credit එකක් දෙනකොට. That's how the local experience. That's what the branch. That's what we can offer. In a bigger exposure also, in a bigger perspective also, we need to think when you give credit, when you invest, are we getting the adequate return? එහෙම නැති වුණොත් we might have to experience where we have some assets which are unearning, but we need to pay the debt. Right now it's the case, right? We are talking, we are complaining, අපි බොරුවට building හදලා අරව හදලා මේව හදලා ඒ income එකක් නැහැ, but අපි දැන් ණය ගෙවන්න ඕනේ. Like there may be part to the political also, but there may be sense of that as well. Okay, right. So we'll discuss this. Give me a minute. So we'll continue. So next is basically sources and uses of bank funds. That is also important for us to see that how we are getting the money to the bank and how we are using those things, right? So major sources, එකනේ bank එකට කොහොමද අපිට සල්ලි එන්නේ? Own capital, because that initially we, as every bank, we need to have some capital introduced to form the bank. That's one. Number 2 is the demand deposits. So deposits. That's a deposits that we are getting from depositors. Those are demand, those are savings, time, foreign currency, minor savings side, there are so many sources that we can get the money. But I presume that SDB, you are not having the current accounts, right? You only have savings accounts and rest. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then Ganeshan, how we are going to like do the repayment from the client? You are getting checks from the client, or how it basically happens?
Yeah, about the in businessman, we are getting checks for repayment.
Repayment, and then you
Yeah.
deposit those checks in a particular account which you are maintaining in a commercial bank. Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, right. But you are not using the savings accounts for that purpose. The client can send a standing instructions to one of the savings accounts maintained at your bank. Are you using that method?
Some branches are using that method also, sir.
Right, but you are getting posted checks from the clients.
Yeah.
Right, and then you deposit in the particular date in a particular other commercial bank where SDB account is maintained, right? And then you get the settlement.
Yeah.
Right. But then you say the deposits is basically those are loan repayment. I just want to get an idea. But rest is like you savings, time deposit. Those are another method of the source that you get in order to lend. Borrowed funds, credit lines, refinancing funds, debenture, dollar borrowing. So that is also another source. Like I heard that basically SDB also recently tied up with IFC and got some funds for SMEs and micro lending. Or you might have some refinancing funds which has getting central bank, or maybe a debenture issue, right? I think recently SDB went into the share market, right? Am I correct? With some share issue or debenture issue recently that you have gone to the...
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Recently we have done that.
Done. Is it a share issue or debenture?
Not share issue.
Share issue, right? Like that. So then you go to the the market, the debenture in terms of preference shares, so that you get some again funds. That is because that you need to for your lending purposes. Finally, retain profits. That is basically once you make a profit, so that also can be retained for future investment or future on lending or in terms of asset financing that purposes. So those are the sources. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට කොහොමද බැංකුවට සල්ලි එන්නේ? මොකද බැංකුවකට සල්ලි අවශ්‍යයි අපිට අනිත් පැත්තට lend කරන්න නම්. In generally capital එක අපි කියලා කියන්නේ 10% විතර. ඒතර 90% ම some other sources. So you need to know what are those sources. Then major users, that of course you need to know. But then the idea here, sometimes people might say that we get customer deposits. ඒ අරගෙන අපිට අනිත් පැත්තටම lend කරන්න පුළුවන් නේද කියන proposition එක තියෙනවා. No, you can't use that whole money for lending purposes. Why? Because we need to have some other purposes as well. Those are statutory reserve, SRR. What is the SRR these days? It is around 4%. So whatever you get from customers, so you need to make 4%, which is maintained at central bank. So you can't lend the 100% to the client. ඒතර 4% විතර අපි ඒකට අයින් කරගන්න. ඊළඟට we need to have liquid asset reserves, cash TBs, SLAR. So that is we call liquidity asset ratio, need to maintain at any given time. So it could be in the form of cash TB, right, in terms of your bank, in terms of central bank, right? So in terms of assets like TB, treasury bill, treasury bonds. So because it's the liquid form. Why it is that? In case if the client, the depositors want money, we don't expect everybody to come and ask the money at a particular day, then we are going to crash, right? But there may be a chance that many clients at a season or maybe year end, maybe they may come and ask money. So we assume that we need to have some liquid assets in your hand. මොකද නැත්නම් අපි ඔක්කොම ගත්ත ටික අපි ණයට දීලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ණයට දුන්නාම ඒ ටික අපිට ආපහු අය කරගන්න කාලයක් යනවනේ. housing loan වෙන්න පුළුවන්, credit working capital loan වෙන්න පුළුවන්, term lending වෙන්න පුළුවන්, leasing hire purchase වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So we are getting that money on a pre-identified intervals නේ. monthly නේවා තියෙනවා, quarterly නේවා තියෙනවා, annually නේවා තියෙනවා. ඒතර එහෙම තමයි මේ සල්ලි ටික ආවම ආපහු අපි රිලීන් කරන්නේ. එහෙම නැතුව අපි දීපු ටිකම එකපාර කස්ටමර්ස්ලා කියනවා නම් right I want my money කියලා අදාවොත් අපි මිලියන 100ක් අපි ඩිස්පස් කරලා ඉවරයි. in a different instruments. ඒතර අපිට ඔක්කොම ගන්න බෑ. However, in order to be more cautious, we have maintained the liquidity amount. Liquidity ratio කියලා කියනවා ඒක SLAR එක. Right now it is 20%. එතකොට අපි අපේ given time ඒ සල්ලිම ඕනේ නැහැ. අපි මොන හරි flow එකක් හදාගෙන තියා ගන්නවා 120ක විතර liquidity ratio එකක් තියා ගන්න, which has been monitored by the central bank. Then third one is credit facilities to the customers. So අපි දැන් මේ ගන්න depositors money in turn we are giving to the credit borrowers. ඒක තමයි අපි borrowers ලා කියන්නේ. It could be pawning, it could be whatever unmany kind of thing, it could be a personal loan, it could be a housing loan. So එතකොට ඒ වගේ අපි retail assets එහෙම නැත්නම් SME assets එහෙම නැත්නම් corporate assets හැටියට clients ට අපි දීලා තියෙනවා. right? Security investment එකක් හැටියට investment banking හැටියටත් ඒක තියෙනවා. Maybe treasury bill, treasury bond, shares of other companies. එතකොට එක එක subject to some guidelines. So that could be a something else. That treasury වල අපි සමහරලාට අපි කියන්නේ we are getting a good income from treasury කියලා කිව්වොත් treasury එකෙන් එතකොට අපි forex වල එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒ transactions යනවා. right? ඒ වල අපි investment එකක් හැටියට කරලා තියෙනවා. Then finally fixed assets වල. Because some organizations are not everything on rent. They have head office building, they have regional building being built by themselves. එතකොට ඒව assets හැටියට යනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් සමහරලාට vehicles වෙන්න පුළුවන්, සමහරලාට machinery වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So those things also being invested. එතකොට අපි දන්නවා what are the sources, what are the uses of bank funds කියන දේ අපි දැනගන්න ඕනේ. Sometimes this could be important for your evaluation. නිකන් ටික් කරගන්න මේ slides ටික. Those are not difficult, but just for understanding what are the sources of funds, what are the uses of funds. Right. Any questions? Right. One question like what is the model if you are you following the like self-sufficient banking? Like do you have that concept Kanchana in a branch? So it's not very recorded like very mandated or mandatory sort of requirement. Are you in a position to say that in your asset and liability what is the mix that you are having? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි දුන්නොත් අපි lend කරොත් 100ක් ඒ වගේම liabilities උත් අපි 100ක් විතර source කරන තත්යකට අපි ඇවිල්ලාද තියෙන ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ branches. Is there any concept like that? We call self-sufficient. It's good that if you can maintain that. You can technically yes you get the liabilities. අපි funds අරගෙන you send to the treasury. That's fine. But recorded purposes අපි તો මගේ loan book එක advance book එක මම කියනවා මිලියන 300යි. But simultaneously if I have more liabilities raised, maybe 500 million liabilities මම raise කරලා දීලා තියෙනවනම් so you are not self-sufficient. You are getting some money from treasury for what you have granted. ඒතර එහෙම concept එකක් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙනවා. Self-sufficient branch. So means that you are obviously profitable. Are you following that or are you maintain that ratio? Deposit loan ratio කියලා එකක් එම තියෙනවද ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ?
Yeah, we are maintaining the LTV ratio, but that it's not maintaining like that specific concept.
Né? But like even the loan to value.
Some are borrowing branches and some are lending branches.
That's what I'm asking. Right, because you have that concepts also, right? But there is a fully fledged branches also where you do both, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in that, Kanchana, what's the branch you are working?
I'm from Sme Department.
Sme Department, right. But is there anybody is in the branch here? Ganeshan, Sumit?
No, sir, I'm also working head office credit department.
Head office credit, right? Kasum, Ranjan, anybody is working in the branch? Shan? It's okay. So basically, I just wanted to, as a concept, like if you have branch manager, so then if you can let's say your loan book is something, say 200 million, and simultaneously if you if you can grow, if you can source deposits beyond 200 million at any given time, right? So at any given time, so then you are very happy. So means that, so you are not dependent on the treasury, right? If you take the full-fledged branch means, yes, I have sourced something which is beyond my lending requirement. අපි දැන් එතන එක්සැම්පල් එකට ගත්තොත් මම කවුරුත් නැතත් මම මේ ප්‍රමාණය අරගෙන මම අනිත් පැත්තට දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ like if say SRR liquidity ටික ඔක්කොම අයින් කරත්, let's say if I source 500 million, we set aside 100 or whatever something to reserves and all that, you have 400. But if your loan book is 300, so you are self-sufficient. It's a good thing that you can, I mean, not very kind of what do you call it's at a KPI or the sort of thing, but as a independently you can say, right, so I have source deposits beyond the advances. It's a good position. If every branch is trying to do that, then obviously your liability targets has been achieved. So then you can manage your liability portfolio. Then අපේ lending portfolio එකට වඩා liability portfolio එක තියෙනවා නම් you can manage. එතකොට වැඩිපුර premium දෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. එතකොට ටිකක් අඩු premium දීලා customers ලාගේ deposits ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ultimately is good for the branch because the treasury margin will be more, right? දැන් අපි හිතමු treasury එක දෙනවා නම් TP එකක් අපිට හිතන්නකො 8% කියලා අපිට දෙන. එතකොට if you can source the funds at 5%, 3% margin. එතකොට 7% එකට හෙවුවොත් ඔයාලට 1% තියෙනවා. So it's coming to the bottom line, right? එතකොට those are some of the concepts that we can practice, right? Then we are in a better, because self-sufficient branches. But Kanchana was telling me, yeah, some branches are like that, some branches are maybe deposit branches, some branches are lending branches, because depending on the area, depending on the locality, maybe you have taken strategic decision where, so yes, you go 90% on deposit drive because there is a deposit proposition there, but maybe some could be 90% on the lending because you have lending options. No harm. I'm just saying that in a kind of a perspective where in a fully fledged branch, so you can have both these being maintained. Okay. This is also a bit important. ALCO, or asset liability, you might have heard this, especially when you're in a branch, a credit. So you might say that ALCO decision, interest rates අපිට එතකොට set කරලා එවනවා. This is the deposit rates based on the ALCO. So you might have that experience. Here is basically how they are taking the decision. I just want to share this slide where to understand the interest rate mechanism, pricing mechanism on assets and liabilities, right? So this is again important, the thing which we have just mentioned, where if you see a liability mismatch, asset and liability, then there may be a risk, right? Then අපි කිව්වොත් අපේ liabilities ටික timing කියන එකත් වැදගත්, amount කියන එකත් වැදගත්, right? Because if we say that we have some liabilities and in terms we have granted assets, but in terms of liquidity our liabilities are not liquid or very liquid, then we have an issue in servicing those assets. එතකොට අපි බලනවා, right, short term liabilities mature වෙන්නේ දවස් 30න්, දවස් 90න්, මාස 6න්, අවුරුද්දෙන් mature වෙන liabilities මොනවද? මගේ assets ටික assets වලින් මට කොයි විදිහටද assets එක mature වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් repay වෙන්නේ? එතකොට මගේ liabilities ටික කොහොමද මට pay කරන්න වෙන්නේ? ඒක ඔය දෙක අතර අපේ gap එක හොඳට නැත්තම් අපි කියනවා asset liability mismatch එක. First place quantity, ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ assets එක වැඩි liability වලට වඩා අඩු නම් එතන ගැටලුවක් තියෙනවා අපිට ඒ දෙක සමාන වෙන්නේ නැතුව. එහෙම නැත්තම් timing එක, assets ටික අපිට mature වෙන range එකට වඩා වැඩි වේගෙන් liability ටික mature වෙනවා නම් අපිට මේ ටික meet කරගන්න we need further liabilities. ලංකාව අපි ඉගෙන කරන්නේ ලංකාවේ loans එක ගෙවා ගන්න we don't have adequate cash flows. එතකොට අපි further debt ගන්නවා. එතන refinance කර යනවා. ඒතර ඒ වගේ තත්ත්වයක් ගත්තොත් bank එක is not doing well in terms of asset liability matching. ඒක තමයි ALM එකකදී බලන්නේ. Active management of bank balance sheets. That's the main purpose of ALCO. practice of managing risk that arise due to mismatches between the assets and liabilities. So assets can bank, credit facilities and investment, which we have discussed, like mainly the users, and the liabilities are sources, deposit and bank borrowings. If we see a difference between the asset and liabilities, maturities mismatched, then there are some risk could be arisen. What are the risk? Interest rate risk. There may be interest rates on some instruments, which are some are floating, some are fixed, like leasing, housing, fixed rates, SME loans and other, it could be variable rates, right? So then if there may be a because now you have priced something variable and then you are sourcing the money on variable terms, you are okay, because the change could have been impacted on the client credit facilities. But let's say you have given facilities to the client on fixed rate, where you can't change, where your cost of funds is now going up and up like these days, because new source of funds could be on variable terms. There may be mismatch in interest rate. Right? So that could be interest rate risk, that one. Then credit risk also there. What is credit risk? You give facilities due to various reasons, internal and external impact. Some of the facilities could go bad. They can't pay. They can default. So then there may be default risk, credit risk. So that also could have impact on your asset and liabilities. Why? Then අපි හිතන් ඉන්නවා client කෙනෙකුට ණයක් දුන්නාම මෙන්න මේ මාස පතා මෙයා හරියට ගෙවන්න. හරියට ගෙවුවේ නැත්නම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? එකක් වෙනවා, we are not getting the money as expected. One, we are not getting the money timely. Two, දැන් සල්ලි එන්නෙත් නැහැ, සල්ලි වෙලාවට එන්නෙත් නැහැ. මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඒක බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා liability එකක් meet කරන්න අපි. දැන් එක credit default එකක් හින්දා ඒ සල්ලි ටික එන්නේ නැත්තම් there is a risk of servicing that particular liability on the credit risk එක. Liquidity risk, maturity. Then default risk එකට වඩා අනිත් එක තමයි we are getting the money, like say repayment එහෙම එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, housing වෙන්න පුළුවන්, leasing වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒක එන්නේ liability එක mature වෙන දවසට පරක් වෙලා නම් there is a mismatch on timing. පළවෙනි එකේ credit risk කියලා කියන්නේ they are not going to repay, then you don't have money to service your liability. Liquidity is the maturity risk. So liabilities are maturing in quickly, whereas assets repayments are maturing with a delay. Then there is a mismatch. We call liquidity. Foreign exchange risk, right? It's happening quite often these days. Now, though the central bank is managing the forex rates, but in practical perspective, අද තියෙන rate එක නෙවෙයි තව දවස් 30කින්, තව දවස් 60කින්, 90කින්. So let's say if you have some importers and then let's say you have some bills to repay, then other agreement amount එක නෙවෙයි තව ඉස්සරහට agree වෙන්නකොට you need to have more dollars. අපි හොයලා දෙන්න ඕනේ. They are ready to purchase, but you need to go to the market and find it out to settle those deals, right? So again, we have some issues in that as well. So basically, in a bank, we have ALCO, Asset Liability Management Committee. It basically takes the decision in terms of setting interest rates on, especially on deposits, right? Why that they are taking that call? Because there are some assets and liabilities they need to work on. What are those? Assets is like bank investment credit facilities. Liabilities is something depositors and bank borrowings. Because there may be mismatches on asset liability in terms of value, in terms of timing, which created some risk. What are those risks? Interest rate, credit, liquidity, forex. So because of that, ALCO is managing, right, for these observations, these outcomes, these circumstances, and then set the bank in the right direction in pricing. So that's why we see time to time, ALCO is taking, say, short-term higher interest rate, medium-term low interest rate, long-term high interest rates. So that's an interest rate that they provide us. Or they might say, for that this is a year ending, we need to have a higher interest on short-term deposits because we need to have a balance sheet build on terms of deposits. Or sometimes they might say short to medium, we don't have deposits like requirement because we have adequate liquidity, because we are unable to lend due to whatever the external environment. So depending on that, they might instruct us on setting interest rates. So then api being branch managers, being credit managers, we see alco sheet api interest rate එක දකින්න එළියේ ඉඳලා. So the theory behind, the work behind that is basically what I am explaining, right? Any questions? Any questions? Anything unclear? Okay. Yeah, Ganesh.
Sir, I have a question with the foreign exchange.
Yeah.
Presently, we are facing mismatch with the foreign exchange, no?
Yes.
So the commercial banks are how they are managed with their customers, because the commercial banks have a lot of importers and exporters.
Mm-hmm.
When they came to the branch and they asked to pay the imports, how the commercial banks are manage this issue?
Yeah, it's like this, Ganesh. I must say that being also I'm in the Nation Trust Bank in the commercial banking exposure, we are actually unable to meet all the customer requests. You know why? Now, how we are getting the dollars is basically we have some dollar flows to a bank, right? We have both importers and exporters. So we have some our exporters who are routing money through our accounts, or we have some clients who are remitting their salaries to our accounts. So we have some dollar flows. That's the first, the source that we are getting the dollar flows. In addition, sometimes if we have some instrument with the central bank, or by selling those things, trading those instruments, we can also get some dollar flows. But when you see those inflows and versus the outflows, where our importers, they need some money when they import to clear those goods in terms of dollar payments. So obviously we have a mismatch between inflows and outflows. That's one. Right? How we are managing is like whenever customer comes, right now, like those days, we are unable to accommodate the all customer import base. So what we are trying to do is we are in a ration sort of quota basis. Let's say if we take selected customers, we provide some dollars for today, and then maybe tomorrow for another set of customers. Because these customers again are customers of other banks also. Let's say the client A is banking with Nation Trust Bank and also banking with commercial or HNB. So then what they are trying to do is, so maybe one day they are taking some of dollars from my bank and do the clearance, and then for the following day go to another bank, like that, because we are shortage within the banking system. Also we have a shortage because there was some sort of restrictions imposed by the central bank also. For example, if the exporter sends $100 to us, we are unable to keep that $100 as it is and pay importers, because we need to convert some of the dollars into rupees. That's what the central bank was telling, because they say 25% have to be routed to the central bank and get the rupee from them, and then only $75 is available with us, which has been protested by the exporters. But you can't do all those things, right? Even the client who is earning $1 in terms of foreign employment or foreign assignment, we are supposed to convert them to the rupee. So that again restricts us having more dollar reserves within the bank, because when those comes to us, we need to sell them to central bank and get the rupee. So those are some restrictions. So Ganesh, to answer your question, so the banks basically managing whatever their inflows and dollar outflows within the particular bank itself, but we are unable to meet all demands from import clients. So we, as a kind of a cluster, as a syndication, we try to support them with other banks as well. So that's why we still see many clients coming and telling us, because we have so many things imported, located in like line in harbor, we don't have dollars, right? Again, then you see large companies are telling we want LCs open, right? And then we can bring the gas in. So in terms that when the client tells like that, so the intermediary is the bank. The client say, we want some money in the sense the bank does not have the money. So that's why we can't give the money to those importers. That's why the central bank time to time intervene and provide maybe $12 million, $20 million, $50 million. They issue dollars to the banks, maybe People's Bank or maybe the Bank of Ceylon or whatever other prominent bank. And then in turn, we provide them to our clients for the importers to clear the goods. That's how it's happening. Right now, we don't see a fully fledged operations where we still have so many restrictions in providing dollars to our importers because we don't have adequate reserves in exporters because due to one thing is we are lack of dollars and higher demand for imports, and also there are some restrictions in place by the central bank for forcible, mandatory conversion of dollar reserves we have. Have I answered your question, Ganeshan?
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions, Kanchana, Ranjan, Sumit, Kasum? What we have learned? Any gray area? Any thought? Any feedback? Okay. We'll move on. This is again another concepts, I think. Relationship banking. What is relationship banking? Yeah. So relationship banking, right? Before that, what we are trying to do is, as bankers, we are in the financial intermediation. We speak of depositors, we speak of borrowers, we speak of sources, we speak of users, right? So we try to act as an intermediary between depositors and the borrowers, right? When we are undertaking this transaction, we try to service our borrowers in two ways. One is standalone transaction, which is something, let's say the customer wanted whatever, asset product, liability product. Asset, it could be something the client wanted to have a term deposit. We offer good rate, we get the deposit, transaction is over. After maybe if it is a maturity, after the period the client can come and withdraw the money or maybe renew the deposit for another period. Or in a month on month, we send the money to particular customer's bank account, which is maybe operating in another bank. So that's a kind of a transaction. In case of asset, the client bought a housing loan. Yes, we go standalone basis. We evaluate whatever client requirement and we do provide a particular loan, whatever, everything done and then disperse, and then the client is supposed to pay. Those are transaction banking in terms of assets, in terms of liability. There's another form of banking which is very prominent these days. We are not stopping at the transaction level, right? We wanted to go beyond that. We call relationship banking. Why the transaction banking have so many loopholes? One I have mentioned, it's a competition. The mama term loan එකක් හරි housing loan එකක් හරි 100ට මෙච්චර දෙනකොට තව කෙනෙක් ඒක අණ්ඩ කට් කරලා හරි 0.5කට අඩුවෙන් දීලා මම දෙන්නම් අරෙන් ගන්න එපා කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් මගේ housing loan එක විතරක් මෙතන තියෙනවා. තව කෙනෙක් මහත්තයාව ගොඩක් ගෙවනවනේ. අපරාධින ඕක මංගාවට ගේන්න loan take over කරා ඒ පැත්තට ගත්තා. So competition නේ. Bank to bank competition. එතකොට ඒ වගේ දේවල් avoid කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් තමයි relationship banking. So bank invests building in long-term relationship with its customers. What it means is like we are not thinking of giving one product at a time, one service at a time, whether it's a liability or the asset. We try to, build the relationship. We can then lending එක කරනවා. හැබැයි lending එක කරන එක විතරක් නෙවෙයි අපේ purpose එක client එක. it could be non-financial services we are speaking of. We try to cross-sell some product. We try to aware the value of some concepts about savings habit, about financial discipline, or we try to upsell. Then medapar api monohari kakya gattanan api. Example, if you take deposit. So do you have investment plans deposit Ganesha? Like you put monthly some amount, and after 2 years, 3 years, you get a lump sum, like you call
Yes,
it.
sir. Yeah. We have investment plans accounts, investment accounts.
So like that, let's say now maybe a client A and comes with you, and sometimes they might say this time it's about 750 investment plan for about 3 years. එතකොට upselling කියලා කියන්නේ දැන් we know that customer is growing, he has has save some money, operating cash flows. එතකොට අපි යාට කියනවා why not this time not 750, why not do 1.5 million deposit for the same period and upsell එකක් කරා. The client also like now identified good relationship, right? So they are having a value on me. So the upselling. එහෙම නැත්නම් vehicle එකක් මේ පාර අපි යාට යනවා මිලියන 2ක වාහනයක්, ඒ ලීස් එක ඉවරනකොට අපි යාට කියනවා why not you go for the better vehicle. Upselling, because a different value, higher value, right? Higher comfort. So so you are building with the client, growing with the client. Upsell. Cross-sell is basically you, instead of giving housing loan, you try to offer some more products. Maybe deposits, maybe the savings deposits, maybe term deposits, maybe minor savings, right? Or maybe you try to offer some personal loans, right? So you try to do more and more banking with the client. Yes, we are getting some income, but it's a relationship, right? Then whenever the customer wanted some further advice, further financing, you are the first contact to him. So then very difficult the other banker, other competitor to capture him, grab him. Why? Because now not only the particular transaction, there may be other products attached to him. There may be value-added services offered to him, right? Then the transaction relationship is there. So that is very useful. So that's why sometimes you see when you are dealing with the client, maybe you are offering maybe bit the pricing of your offering may be higher than what your competitor is offering. Still the client is with you. Why? He likes your service. He likes your association, right? So that's all about the relationship. So that works, because now like those days we go by transaction by transaction and you earn income kind of thing. Now you see a client relationship, client wallet. එතකොට අපි දැන් term loan එකක් දුන්නාම එතරින් නතර වෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? එයාගේ cash flow එකක් අපි ගන්නවා, එයාගේ sinking fund එකක් අපිට එනවා, එහෙම නැත්නම් තවත් මොන හරි facilities එකක් අපිට දෙනවා, තව non financial services ටිකක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට overall you have a better income, free income, interest income දෙකම. අර එකක් දීලා ලොකු rate එකක් දෙනවට වඩා එක facility එකක් ටිකක් අඩුවට price කරලා with some value added, එහෙම නැත්නම් additional products range එකයි service range එකයි දුන්නාම the client is paying you more and it is easy to maintain also. දැන් අපි හිතමු in order to make 1 million, one client with multiple facilities, the effort you put is lesser. You are earning 1 million out of 5 clients. අපි ගන්නකො phone call එකක් වුණා පහක් දාන්න බෑ. මෙතන එකක් දාලා A to Z අපි ඔක්කොම ටික අහනවා. Then we discuss about the industry, business, that he likes it. We share our information. That's what we building, the relationship building. So very important. So that's the difference between transaction banking and the relationship banking. So are you into that, Kanchana? Are you into that concepts in some of your identified clients in branches? Or still are we doing the transaction type of banking? Ganeshan, Sumit, what's it like? Yeah, please, Kanchana.
Yes, in the branches, there are business relationship officers.
Mm-hmm.
They are maintaining relationship with the main customers,
Right.
with the branch manager.
Branch manager. So basically, are they into the like the cross-selling, upselling, so
Yes, yes.
those things also, like you are, because now that is the way forward, I must say, because rather than onboarding new clients day and day, good that you grow with 1 or 2 customers with more and more facilities, because then you have a better proposition, better management, better recovery, right? So I am telling is like, when you say you give term loan, you give working capital, you give lease, like depending on his payment capacity, but what it means is the client is does not go to another place, right? At lease එක තැනකට working capital එක තැනකට term එක අපි ගාව deposit තව තැනක තිබ්බොත්, even his time effort also in question, no, it's going vain නේ. දැන් අපි ගාව තියෙනවා නම් අපි දන්නවා අපේ risk appetite එක මේකෙන් අඩු වෙනකොට මේ පැත්තෙන් එක cover වෙනවා. So like that you can maintain that sort of, the benefits in relationship banking. I mean, not easy, because no, every bank is doing this type of thing, because everybody is trying to keep where they are good guys under their belt, right? Not easy, but it's a good proposition that we need to work on. Right. Further, we discuss the relationship banking, and then we'll stop for the break, right? Offering customers a broad spectrum of financial products and services that go beyond simple accounts or transaction to strengthen their relationship with customers. Cross-selling කියලා අනිත් පැත්තෙන් කියනවා. Kasun, you have raised your hand. Any question, Kasun? Anything to ask, Kasun, here? Okay. Offering customers broad spectrum. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කිව්වා වගේ not a single product, but multiple products, different products, catering the different requirements. Not only the products, financial services also. So with that, you have a better strengthen your strong relationship with your clients, right? That's what the relationship banking core is. Demographic based products. So that again, you have products which has been identified for demographic. You have senior citizens, you have youth, you have kids, you have women entrepreneurs, women's, right? So you have identified your customer base. So you have products, senior citizens deposit, senior citizens loans, women like what you are offering, like Uttamavi kind of schemes, right? Kids, right? Lagda, whatever I heard, there are so many products. I think you have developed everything. What I heard is like everything is with you, like, so that's, it's very important. Then when the main decision maker, entrepreneur is banking with you, as a relationship manager, so we can talk about, right, why not we open a savings account for your spouse or your kids, මෙන්න මේ විදිහට personal loan එක. එතකොට he is very happy නේ. එයා තම දෙක තුනකට යන්න ඕනේ නේ. එයාගේ දුවගේ අධ්‍යාපනය, පුතාගේ අධ්‍යාපනය, එහෙම නැත්නම් වෙඩින් එක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. විශේෂ අවස්ථාවකට දැන් Ganeshan was telling me like there were some investment plans. එතකොට දැන් why not you have investment plan for about 3 years? Maybe your son is going to do A levels. Thereafter you need some money. It's a a proactive solution you give. Then your relationship bank එක තිබ්බොත් විතරනේ ඔයා දන්නේ මෙයාගේ ඔක්කොම ins and out ටික. එතකොට ඔයාලට ටයිම්ලි කියන්න පුළුවන් මේ වෙලාවට මෙහෙම කරමු, මේ වෙලාවට මෙහෙම කරමු, මේ දවස්වල වාහන වල මෙන්න මේ විදිහට යන්නේ, second hand එකක් අපි මේ විදිහට මේක මාරු කරමුද? තේරුණාද? These are the business industry opportunities. Why not you go take a short term loan එකක් අරගෙන මේ investment එක කරමු? Right? So you know every ins and out of the client's business operation and the person. Very easy. Create customer satisfaction and loyalty. That's another, great outcome of the relationship banking. Customers are loyal. දැන් හැම දෙයකටම කෝල් කරන්න යා. දැන් අපි කියනවා what Kanchana was telling me like business relationship officer කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඒතර එයාව තමයි contact කරන්නේ. You can name it like red carpet, privilege banking, inner circle, මොකක් හරි නමක් දාලා maybe top 10, top 25 clients in your branch are like this. එයාව ටග් ගාලා polling වල නෑ වැඩි කරනවා. manager හම්බ වෙනවා අනිත් අයට කලින්. Because maybe එහෙම නැත්නම් there is a dedicated officer to attend his all problems. Phone call away, everything is being looked into. So it's very loyal, very committed. මොකද මේ හැම එකකටම they are willing to pay. Right? Some banks are like collecting money and going to their business premises. They are willing to pay some money with the insurance cover in place that you can do that transaction. එතකොට එයාගේ හවස වැරදි කිවරනකොට දැන් කවුරු හරි එයා එක්කෙනෙක් එවන්න ඕනේ නැහැ බැංකුවට සල්ලි ටික දාන්න. One of your representative go and collect the money. For that he is willing to pay money. Maybe internet banking. එතකොට ඒක හම්බුණා මම ගෙදර නම් LC එක open කරන මට්ටමට එනවා. Very easy නේ. So with the platform you have provided, so he opens LC in his home. හයට හරි ඒක දාලා උදේ වෙනකම් නැත්තම් ආයේ පහුද උදේ 8 මාට බැංකුව වරනකම් ඉඳලා එනකොට සමහරට යාගේ අනිත් ටිකක් කරගන්න බැරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Economies of scale, economies of scope in collection of custom information, repeated transaction, reducing transaction cost to the both. Right? Now, when you say that like LC වෙන්න පුළුවන්, account opening වෙන්න පුළුවන්, opening the due deposit වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? So those are like repeated transactions තියෙනවා. Right? Repeated information. ඒක එකපාරක් ගත්තම ඇති අපි දන්නවා right maybe he send us indemnity එකක් මම දීලා දෙනවා මෙන්න මේ ටික තමයි operation instructions. ආය අපි එකකින් එකට දඟලන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. සමහරට over the phone අපි confirm කරා වැඩි කරා. Because the trust, the loyalty, process being simpler. Right? Time, cost ඔක්කොම ඒවල ඉතුරු වෙනවා එතන. දැන් අපි හිතමු කෝඩි එකල දෙන්න කියලා කියනකොට අපිට වෙන accounts වල ඇත්තටම සල්ලි තියෙනවා. අපි letter of set of අරන් තියෙනවා. ඒක managers call දෙන්න. මේ ටික දුන්නට කමක් නැහැ. මොකද දැන් නැත්තම් එක account එකක් නැති අපි බලන්න check එක එයිද check එක realize වෙයිද කවදද දාන්නේ ඔක්කොම දාගෙන ප්‍රශ්න දාගෙන අපි මෙතන ඉන්නවා. දැන් හදිසියෙන් මේක pay off කරත් කමන්නේ because there are some cash flows to come. මොකද අපි දන්නවා දිගටම cash flows අපිට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා savings account එකට හරි current account එකට හරි TD6 එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා. අපිට මේක නැත්තම් මේක පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්. So many benefits. Enhance bank competitiveness, profitability. Because one of your KPIs, profitability. How the profitability increase? Then it's a value chain, right? For everything there is a money. Everything there is a fee. The customer is willing to pay. නැත්තම් දැන් check එකකට මෙච්චරයි අරකට මෙච්චරයි එකේ customer complain කරන්නේ නැහැ. Because he is ready to pay. එයා දන්නවා the service he is getting, the relationship, the loyalty, the service that you are doing to him. So he is okay to pay. All fee income and interest income then අපිට එනවා. So one customer with less input, less time, high income. Okay, that's all about relationship banking. I think you are in the right direction. So that's what we need to work on. Instead of transaction banking, we do the relationship banking. Yes, you need some more input on this. Like when you say relationship banking, it's not easy. The same business development relationship manager should know all about products, all process relevant to the client, all rules and regulations. Sometimes the customer is asking, like, $1 එකට මොකද වෙන්නේ මහත්තයා? Right? අපි දැන් මෙහෙම interest rates වලට මොකද වෙන්නේ? housing loan මොකද්ද කරා නේද? මේ 7 rate එක අයින් කරා නේද? ඔන්න ප්‍රශ්න. වැලක් යහන්නේ. That you should be equipped to answer all those things. එහෙම නැත්නම් give me a time, then I'll come back කියන එක හරි කරලා answer දෙන්න ඕන. Because now he wanted answers for all questions from us now. Single point of contact. So we should be able to answer those things. Valuation of the product, new development of the product, changes of the market. Even they ask about very political question. මේ ආණ්ඩුව මොනවාරි කරලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙයිද අපි මොකද වෙන්නේ පිටරට වල වල යවන්න පුළුවන්. So many questions. Like Ganeshan was asking about how to manage dollars. සමහරවිට මේ local entrepreneur කෙනෙක් may be asking the same question. මහත්තයා කොහොමද දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ ඔය dollars ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන්නේ කියලා අහුවොත් ඔයා හරිම උත්තරයක් දෙන්න එපා. Because he is going and telling to somebody else. එතකොට අපි වැරදි දෙයක් කිව්වනම් අයියෝ ඔයාට දීලා තියෙන වැරදි information එකක් මේ මිනිස්සේ ජීවිතේට අපි ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්නේ. Relationship could go crash. Right? Not easy. Very challenging. හැබැයි when you are doing this job, then we trust you. ඊළඟට මෙන්න මෙහෙම කිව්වොත් right මහත්තයා මෙහෙම අපිට පොඩි deposit පොඩි මේකක් තියෙනවා. මිලියනයක් විතර අපිට දාගන්න පුළුවන්. He is ready to give. He will give. ඔයාගේ targets ටික achieve කරගන්න he will give that. That's all relationship. නැත්නම් deposit customer කෙනෙක් නම් ඒ විතර නම් මට එන rate එක කීයද දෙන්න අර බැංකුවේ මට 8ක් දෙන්න මට 9ක් දෙනවා නම් I will put some money. That's what he's coming on that line. But in a relationship, ගන්නක කමක් නැහැ දාමු අපිට මොන හරි අපි කරගමුකෝ මම අපෝ ජනවාරි එක අයින් කරගන්නම් මාත්‍යාගේ බැලන්ස් ෂීට් එක නේ ඕක ඕනේ කියලා he might even come up with a lower rate. That's a relationship. Okay, any questions?
Yes, I have a question. What is the difference with economic of scale and economic of scope?
Yeah, economics of scale is something, I mean, both are like something activity and the purpose kind of thing. When you say scale, we talk about activity, number of what you call repeated transaction kind of the scale we are talking about. Scope is something, information, the purpose like that. That's why I say a collection of custom information is relevant to scope, and the repeated transactions are the scale. Like if you take in a company, like if you produce 1,000 units, and instead of using 1,000 units, if you are producing 100,000 units, we talk about economies of scale. Then, like CPRs also. Then when you are offering a 1 million credit facility to a client, and if you are trying the 10 million credit facility to the client, economies of scale, scope. Because of the 1 million, you collecting same set of information. But 10 million may be bit enhanced, but a same set of information. Hey, what's the value for you? 10 million, 1 million? 10 million. Because if you try to do 10 million by 1 million into 10, then the scope is bigger, right? Because you have to collect so many information from different customers. 10 million book. But 10 million then you have economies of scale. You save a lot of money, save a lot of time. Economies of scope because it's related to information requirement. Right now, let's say the client comes to term deposit, another come to housing loan, another come to personal loan. 3 different clients. If you say economies of scope, if you are trying to handle 3 clients, then you don't have economies of scope. ඒ තුන් දෙනාටම වෙනම information collect කරලා වෙනම process කරන්න ඕනේ. But ඒ තුන් දෙනා වෙනුවෙන් ඉන්නේ එක client කෙනෙක් නම් එයාට මේ තුනම වාට විකුණන්න පුළුවන් නම් information requirement එක අර වගේ 3 files තුනක් හදාගෙන ඔක්කොම දාගන්න ඕනේ. එකේම තව චුට්ටක් value added information. That's a scope. Right? Scale is number of transactions. Right? එතකොට 10ක් කරන්න යන වෙලාව සහ 1000ක් කරන්න යන වෙලාව ගත්තොත් 1000ක් කරනකොට අපේ learning curve හරි තියෙන system හරි පාවිච්චි කරලා අපිට අපිට value එකක් හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ඒක නම් cost එක අපිට අඩු වෙන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. Right? Let's say in a given system අපි හිතමු if you take what's an example that I can give, අපි හිතන් machine එකක් start කරනවා කියලා. ඒ machine එකක් start කරාම අපි හිතමු ඒක start කරලා ඒකට cost එකක් යනවා, starting cost maybe say 1 million. හැබැයි ඔය 1 million start කරාට ඕකෙන් එකක් හැදුවත් 10ක් හැදුවත් අර 1 million යනවනේ starting cost එක. So you prefer rather than 1 unit or 10 unit. 10 unit. Then value for the transaction, value for the item could come down. ඒක profitability එකට හොඳයි. ඒක තමයි අපි කියන්නේ economies of scale කියලා. So both now is benefited if you do relationship banking. But transaction banking වලට ගියොත් economies of scale සුත් වැඩි, economies of scope කියන එකත් වැඩි. කියන්නේ මේ දෙකම අපිට benefit එකක් නැහැ. මොකද ඒක separate transactions කියලා වෙනම කරනවා one at a time. වෙනම information ටිකක් ගත්තා, වෙනම එක්කෙනෙක් දාලා එක කරා. ආයෙ තව එක්කෙනෙක් දාලා තව එකක් කරා. ආයෙ තව එක්කෙනෙක් දාලා තව එකක් කරා. හැබැයි අනිත් පැත්තට ගියොත් one guy නම් one person නම් මේ තුනම එකම information set එකක් අරගෙන එක්කෙනෙකුට handle කරන්න පුළුවන් ඉතාලම අඩු කාලයක් තුල. Am I answering to you, Kanchana?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So what we'll do is we'll take 15-20 minutes break. And then after that, so we will discuss අපි එහෙමනම් start කරමු. Type of borrowers and business sectors. Generally, we have couple of the borrowers in day-to-day banking, namely individuals, joint borrowers, sole proprietorships, that is Act number 58 of 1988, partnerships, private limited liabilities, public listed or limited companies, government institutions, government, societies, cooperative societies, clubs, NGOs, right? These are some of the, the borrowers we generally identify. But before moving to the next slide, I just want to give an oversight here. The importance of, the identifying the borrowers in terms of risk perspective. Now, in terms of SDB, obviously you have individual, joint borrowers, or proprietor partnerships, private limited companies, and the societies like cooperatives. So that's what general, maybe majority of your customer base. I wonder whether you have aggressively funding public companies or the statutory bodies, but set aside that, the rest of the people are your day-to-day borrowers, if I'm not mistaken. Now the point here is, as credit managers, we need to understand the nature of these people, borrowers, than saying he is my borrower, he is my borrower. But important is when you say individual client. Later also we will understand further in discussing about credit evaluation models. Now individual, when you say what are the risk, what is the issues that we can face when we are trying to finance in that. Maybe he's good at decisions, he makes quick decisions. Simultaneously, decisions are based on one individual, could go right or wrong, or rather the decisions or maybe the business may depend on individual. Dependence is high, key man risk is there. Those are some of the questions that you need to see beyond the client, beyond the borrower. ඒ ටික තමයි අපි හැම වෙලේම ක්‍රෙඩිට් එකක් දෙනකොට ඒ borrowerගේ ලක්ෂණ ටික, එහෙම නැත්නම් nature, features of the borrower that we need to keep in our mind. Then come to the company, for example. Let's say we know that a company and the directors are two different legal personalities in the presence of law. However, for us, the importance is, yes, the company, who is behind that? Promoters. Then, itana legally good to have these two separated. Legal entity එකක් හැටියට we can sue, can be sued. That's all fine. හැබැයි අපිට company එකේ ABC private limited කියලා එළියට එනකොට එක පිටිපස්සේ ඉන්නේ ABC සිල්වා කියන එක පුද්ගලයෙක් නම්, for credit decision it doesn't make a bigger difference. Individual කෙනෙක් ආවත්, company ආවත්, same set of decisions that we can expect. මොකද අරයමනේ company නමින් දාලා ගන්නේ. So that's important. එහෙම නැතුව දැන් individual කෙනෙකුත් එක්ක company එකක් ආවා, company is good, then we are, our risk levels has come down. No, it might not work like that. So අන්න ඒ විදිහට you need to go beyond behind the screen players to identify කරන්න ඕනේ. When come to say sole proprietor, similar business එකක් register වෙනවා නමකට, but behind that there may be a person who is running that. Who is like other dependents, who can act when something happens to the particular promoter. ඒව තමයි අපි බලන්න ඕනේ credit පැත්තෙන්. ඒ වගේම partnerships, good to have partnerships. මොකද එක්කෙනෙකුට වඩා දෙන්නෙක් හොඳයි. Right, dependence and දෙන්නෙක්, decision making දෙන්නෙක්. Partnership agreement එකක් තියෙන එක much better, because in case of sharing profits and responsibilities, it's good to have. Simultaneously, එක්කෙනෙකුට වඩා දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නකොට there may be conflicts. හරි, ඊට පස්සේ වැඩේ කරගෙන යනකොට ටිකක් හොඳට යනකොට එක්කෙනෙක් කඩාගෙන යනවා අර පැත්තට. So those are the issues that we need to also keep in our mind when we are having the long-term relationship with these clients. Hope you understand what I'm mentioning. Like especially like as lending officers, managers, what we need to understand is like we have three parties in this transaction. TOB type of borrowers, TOC type of credit, TOS type of securities. BCS is the kind of relationship, BCS model we generally talk about. Borrower, credit, security. එතන මේ BCS කියන මොඩල් එක interconnect වෙනවා methods දෙකකින්. that is a evaluation criteria. credit appraisal methods දෙකක් තියෙනවා. individuals වලට එකකුයි company වලට එකකුයි. so that we call 6Cs හරි 5Cs හරි individual model එකක් තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් NIFT කියලා company evaluation model එකක් තියෙනවා. so when these things are in there, so BCS model interconnected through this evaluation methods, that is basically credit granting. That's what we need. Habai, what we need to understand is we need to go beyond the borrower name. ඒක පිටිපස්සේ ඉන්නේ කවුද? එයාගේ capacity එක මොකක්ද? Track record, references, right? His experience, exposure. Those are the importance for us. එහෙම නැතුව නිකම් මේ company නමක්, partnership එකක්, business එකක්, individual කෙනෙක්, joint borrower කියන එකට වඩා වෙනස්. Simultaneously that when coupled with the security, that's important. දැන් අපි පරාටේ අපිට එන්නේ the facility should exposure when it is NPL beyond 5 million, and the property should owned by the borrower itself. It's a company now, it's under company. It's a individual now, the property should be under individual name. And at it's going under third party, you can't execute parate. So those things also important. Be credit officers. මොකද දැන් අපි lending එක කරන වෙලාවෙම we mentioned in the outset, we need to think about the profitability. We think about the impairment. In case of recovery, what's the way forward? What's a fallback? That's important. ඒතර ඒකට අපි දැනගන්න ඕනේ security එක, value එක, who owns the security. Right? In case of a emergency, are we in a position to sell it? What's a marketability, realizability, enforceability, lot of things. ඒකම big picture එකක් හැටියට ටට ගාලා ඔයගොල්ලෝට එන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම වුණාම තමයි නැතුව borrower company හින්දා හොඳයි, borrower existing borrower කෙනෙක් මට refer කරපු හින්දා හොඳයි, existing customer කෙනෙක් ඉන්න හොඳයි. Those are all myths. You have to start from the scratch. And who you have to see, evaluate the particular company in detail with the promoters. That's the importance of the borrower proposition. I'm not going to go very detailed about the pluses, minus, and all that, but just wanted to give an insight. When you talk about the borrower, so you have to go inside and see who are the correct promoter. What's his capability, capacity, track record, preferences we are obtaining, opinion made by others. Very important. Especially SME micro type, because now in a corporate level, yes, I don't mind because they have a resolution and all that. There are so many controls, even proper auditors. I mean, very difficult the things go wrong. But in SME, it is not like that. So many things. You need to be aware, worry, be mindful. Any questions? Give me a minute, please. Sorry about that. Now we speak of the type of borrower B. Then also we just have an idea on TOC also, type of credit also. Later we will go into detail about credit, but here wanted to give an idea about what is credit in general: consumer, commercial, development, international trade finance. So depending on the bank, right, you can classify it, right? So I know that at SDB you have retail credit, you have corporate credit, you have business banking or the rather than corporate credit, and you have SME credit. Am I correct, Kanchana? Those are the 4 credit pillars that you have, right? The classification?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So if you take NTB, we also do have consumer, commercial, and corporate. So we have 3 pillars, right? So we try to organize, the business lines in that way, but you have like 4 pillars. So within that, maybe you try to accommodate a particular credit to clients, right? So that is basically to facilitate the operations. But other than that, there is no hard and fast rule to how to classify. Between some banks, we see branch credit and corporate credit. So in the branch credit, you try to accommodate everything, like commercial to corporate to and everything for the branch customers. And then at centralized head office level, they do corporate level. Okay. So that's it's part of the this thing. But for our understanding, it's good that some form of classification is required, because then it's easy for us to guide our business model. So consumer credit is basically it could be personal loan, it could be a housing loan, it could be credit cards, debit cards. So those are the consumer, because it's trying to facilitate customers' personal requirement. Commercial is something we identified at for businesses. It could be SME, it could be mid-market, it could be corporate clients. So where you try to finance for the commercial transactions, so working capital, term capital, that is all about business. Even individual who does businesses, this could be catered to under commercial credit, right? In your perspective, you have SME credit, you have the business banking and the commercial corporate banking type. So that where you try to finance SME type of clients and corporate type of clients for their business needs. And then development credits, many banks does not have, but in terms of in your bank, maybe development credit could go as a cooperative pillar, where you try to micro or maybe cooperative type loan. Project finance, I don't see that you are aggressively marketing, but some other banks you can see there's a separate unit called development banking, or maybe infrastructure unit or structured financing, where you try to do bigger or maybe complex facilities. It could involve development banking, it could be project financing, offshore banking. So there's so many things, because it's a specialized pillar. In international trade finance, many banks don't have a separate pillar, but international trade finance, export, import customers are being catered under different segments. I think it's a case for you as well. If the SME customer want an export facility, it could be handled under you and the SME pillar, maybe in the branch or whatever, right? In your model also, Kanchana, you have, let's say, if the retail product, if the customer want the retail credit, what you're going to do is at the business development officer collect all the information in the branch and send to the centralized credit approval. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. Similarly, SME as well. SME also, maybe there is a separate BD or whatever. So they collect information and send to you and your team, your unit. So you will do the needful and get that approved. Is that?
Yes, collect information and prepare a paper.
Paper, who does the paper?
Branch.
So at your level, basically you facilitate the recommendation and approval level at the head office level. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So then you say that you are in the credit approval, so centralized credit. So is there a specific unit for SME business, like promoting, canvassing, visiting, or is there a unit, or how it works?
Yes, I am in the SME business unit.
Okay. What's your exact role of you? SME business unit?
Yeah, business development.
All right. You are the people who are supporting the branch to, finding customer, collecting information. Those support you are giving.
Yeah.
Right. But for the approval, there is a separate unit for credit approval. They do retail approval or
Cooperative
SME.
approval, SME approval.
I got your point, right? So similarly, you have a retail pillar, you have SME pillar, you have cooperative pillar to run the develop the business. Am I correct?
Yes.
Great. So similar maybe other banks, but for NTB and NDB also I learned is we also have like business development function, and then there's a separate credit approval like credit department also. I think similar model, though there are some small differences, but ideally the type of credit also important where borrower credit. Again, we will discuss later in some features and the nature of the credit, because even the credit also, the importance is like we need to understand borrower first and the specific purpose of the credit. That's the most important thing, because I think maybe the Kanchana structuring part is happening at your level. Let's say the customer wanted a working capital facility. So are you the one who instructing the branch to say structures as OD or STL or import loan, or kind of is the input that you are giving, or it's a branch responsibility, or is a
they do by branches.
Right. But even the advisors and structuring inputs are not given by you. Basically, you are like canvassing, like business canvassing or business development function is under SME business. Is that
department?
Okay. We'll continue. Then these are the type of business sectors. I mean, this is not very difficult. Just we will quickly go through. We just wanted to understand and give you an idea in every bank. So we have to understand a particular sector. It could be time to time. These sectors will say grow, or hold, or not to grow like that, because cautious approach, or maybe very like we'll say red, amber, green kind of thing. We might have some red sectors time to time. We might have green sectors time to time. We have some amber where it's not so great, but not so bad also. So we can classify them time to time. So maybe mainly this has been given those input by the credit department or maybe the risk department, depending on their structure. So it is good for the businesses to understand which area that we need to work on. Like if you take these days, yes, exports is coming number one, right? Because now everybody is trying to do more and more export, or maybe manufacturing industries. It's a green. Like if you see something about construction, I must say it could be something amber, right? Because it's not so green. But something tourism, it might be red these days, because still they are trying to revive no new advances to those sectors, right? But agri, I must say, it's now earlier bit of amber, now it's moving to the green, because now we need to support this agri sector. So like that, depending on the industry inside, depending on the bank risk appetite, these sectors being classified, right? Then as business units, it could be retail, it could be SME or whatever. So they basically, they try to understand these sectors and then try to offer some activities within the particular sector, right? So then it's easy for a businesses to understand the customer requirement and map with existing products with those borrowers. Then අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තනේ borrower credit කියලා කැලි දෙකක් security එකක් වෙනම තියෙනවා කියලා. දැන් මේ credit කියන function එකේදී credit types ටික අපිට තිබුණා. borrowers ලා ඉන්න. හැබැයි මේ දෙක map කරනකොට, මේ දෙක understand කරගෙන කරනකොට, we need to see that where we find these clients. මොන sectors වල මොන business activity කරන clients ලාද අපි හොයාගන්න කියන එක අපිට වැදගත් වෙනවා. That has to be centralizedly give the input. Because let's say if I am in a Mondragala branch, there are some sectors in my area. I think these are the potential. I should do these කියලා මම කරගෙන ගියාට හරියන්නේ නැහැ. In a big picture, if we see some issue, right? Example, අපි හිතමු Mondragala, we say agri is the most prominent in Mondragala. හැබැයි දැන් අපි දකිනවා නම් agri sector එක country wide, economic wise, bank wide. So we see some issues, maybe NPL ටික වැඩි, some issues, repayments are not coming as expected. So even Mondragala branch can't do the agri as an when they prefer. So centrally, this is not a green now. This is a bit amber, so you need to be cautious. So unsecured, then you need to be secured. Loan ticket size not so maybe 5-10 million, should be 1-2 million. There should be a dedicated cash flow, right? Then conditions very good. So those are the things that we need to be careful, especially when understanding the sectors and the business activities within those sectors. I will show you some of those activities which are very much important for maybe for the exam also, but general understanding would do. Right here, these are the trade under trade sector. If you say you are in the SME sector, then you need to understand these are the things that we can do. So being a branch manager, being a credit manager, being a credit guy, now I have to go behind these sector activities, business activities. Clients who does this. Trade, this is a green, and these are now green, okay to fund. Wholesale and retail, import, export, distribution, services, transportation, contract, pledge, real estate. Out of that, sometimes they might come and say, real estate, it's now amber. It's not very great to go and do. Or sometimes say real estate, now it's good because bank rates has come down and there may be the people willing to invest on the real estate, right? So go behind the real estate. So then you go with the real estate customers, property developers like that, apartment builders like that, right? Then come to the import export, very lucrative, very attractive these days, because as much as possible go with the export type of clients. Import, there may be bit of amber, bit of red, because now imports are not very much encouraged by new government. So they try to go for import substitutions, right? There may be some restrictions on import taxes and all that, right? There are, even necessity goods are being taxed at high level because of the dollar issues and all that. So if you have import clients, import limits, be cautious, reduce the limit, operate at a lower level. The a red signal centrally somebody should give. If not, what happened is we never know. We say that it's good because other guys are doing, other banks are doing, so I should also do. Because remember that we talk about, we have 4 pillars, 4 KPIs, equally important. Asset growth is important. Asset growth is important. Yes, asset growth will be met, whereas NPL and impairment and profitability KPIs could be impacted. And balance understanding the sectors, sector activities are very much important. Hope you understand the concepts and the things that I'm going to explain, because these are anyway important not for theoretical but practical perspective. Maybe example Kanchana organization, so since you are in business development, probably this is useful to you. So then that you are trying to go and meet some chambers, export development board, at a particular trade organizations, right? What are the green sectors? What are the green activities? Clients have on board current, so you might give direction. So these are the very good top 10 customers. Why you need to so introduce this to the business, and then they can do the credit paper and approval. So send for that, right? So this is very good. Right? So every time, every 6 months, every year, so you have to do this type of scanning. You might get the input from maybe if you have industry analysis, it's very great. If not, maybe the risk department or maybe the credit. I mean, I'm not sure whether you have that type of facilities available, but maybe the credit department can also give an oversight, right? So this is like insight to these things where these are the potential. So you need to grow. You need to find these type of customers, right? So then it is easy for you to canvas, develop businesses, to branch to work on those. Not only SME, it's common to corporate, it's common to retail also. Now take example, say clients are in the tourism segment. Now what happened to the retail facilities we have given? Well, impacted, right? Because now their income sources got impacted. Why? No jobs, no incentives, no money as tips they get in because their hotels were closed. So they are unable to pay you personal loans. So then you need to, do provisioning, moratorium, so many other things that you might have undertaken. Now, even for the new clients, the onboarding is not the right time. You need to wait until the tourism sector revived. So then later you can, go and collect a new customer onboarding. Right. Kanchana, do you have that type of information sort of activities are taking place in your bank? The industry reclassification, clearance, sector clearance things are happening?
Yes, business department is doing.
Right. So you mean to say that SME, like if you take SME business, you are doing? Oh,
Yeah. According to the requirement by branches and bank level requirement, we are doing.
right. So then you are trying to, clear whatever the particular sector, and these are the right, good sectors to go and like that. So you are proposing those things.
Yes.
Right. So similarly, same thing can be done at the retail level, maybe at the corporate level also, because it's a function in your bank. It's a function of the business, right? Like maybe because since that SME business or whatever, so you do and kind of, but it's not a bank wide because you do for SME. Is that?
Yes.
Right. It's better that if you do at a very high level, Kanchana, like let's say now instead of SME business doing separately, retail business doing separately, or rather corporate business separately, it is somebody, if we can independent, maybe industry analysis under risk department or finance department can do, it's a better job. එතකොට මං කිව්වේ තේරෙනවනේ. එතකොට ඇත්තටම මේගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න පුළුවන් right, let's say we will clear trade high level, these are the activities but we are clear, but activities clear for SME may not clear for retail, activities clear for corporate may not good for SME. A level eකට they can do it. You getting my point? Because let's say now like corporate distribution very well worked, but SME distribution level might not work because there may be a lot of guys infected with so many changes, check returns and all that. So distributors coming and SMEs අපි encourage කරන්න නැති වෙයි. But corporate level local distributor type because to pay mass and all that, high level you can offer some facilities. Then නැත්තම් වෙන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක මහන්සි ගන්නවා, retail උත් එක මහන්සි ගන්නවා, corporate උත් එක මහන්සි ගන්නවා. එතකොට එහෙම නැතුව if it is like centralized now, that is much better because he has a better view. So he can get whatever information from central bank to other economic and all that, and the business also gives some inputs. Then he will have a universal model for bank. ඊට පස්සේ එයා කියනවා right retail නම් මේ ටික කරන්න, SME නම් මේ ටික කරන්න, corporate නම් මේ ටික කරන්න. That's the ideal model. Actually NTB we are using that. So we have industry analyst. He basically time to time gives the overview of the industries, and with credit department is anyway different, independent to business pillars, right? So they also prepare industry reports in conjunction, collaboration with the industry analysis. So they provide the information to all business lines, to SME, to retail, to corporate, right? So then it's easy for them to work with the branches and get a new client on board, curtail facility limits, like increase, decrease. So that's how it is happening. Now example, automobiles, vehicle importers, a very lucrative business for all business pillars. Corporate were doing, SMEs were doing, even retail also we were opening LLCs and all those things some time back. Now it's a clear no-go for all three businesses, right? And when you take about now agri, for example, agri sometimes retail we might not touch because it's not good to go for the retailing, because at the in the value chain with the supply chain, whatever the farmers and all, that's not good to go for retailing. But SME to some extent it's a amber, but corporate level it could be green because they are doing with CIC, like big level of agri customers, they can survive. Agri කියන එක ගත්තොත් SME එක amber, retail එක red, corporate එක green. එතකොට ඒක ඇත්තටම somebody can at the top, independently the business pillars, he can give a better insight, right? That's what actually, so we can propose later stage, but maybe right now it's happening at business pillars, right Kanchana?
Yes.
Okay. Similarly, you can see a trade, there may be housing. These are, something that you can do at housing. So anybody from retail credit here? Anybody from the retail business unit? Right. So maybe housing come under the retail, where what you could do under the housing, it could be something purchasing of a land and building like house, purchasing or maybe settling of a particular loan from other bank, or maybe giving a loan to a construction of a house, right? Or maybe a refinance, like you mortgage a particular house and get some money for some other purpose, like so purchase another house, right? Maybe apartment financing. So many things that you can do under housing. Like these days, like most prominent proposition is like in the apartment financing. So if the bank's corporate department can finance the apartment, land, building, and the apartment listing, and then as a retail arm, what we could do is we can have a tripartite with the developer, bank, and the client. So we can finance the housing unit through a housing loan, right? But what happened is, since that we have a mortgage over the land, building, and the total apartment, so we do the deed of willers once we get the money from the particular client, right? So we have pooled through from A to Z. We have covered everything. So otherwise, if you are trying to do apartment financing, which has been funded by the different bank, then it's not easy to monitor something, because that bank is looking only interest up to their repayment or servicing of the debt. But then transfer of the particular unit to the particular and all that. So those are some of the things that it's your baby. But if it is something from A to Z, so everything is funded by the one bank, so more easy. Right? So it's easy to work with that type of mechanism. So in housing also, like there will be so many financing opportunities like this, and then so we need to work on that in a way that we get maximum out of that. We are minimizing the kind of a potential risk. So similarly, that there may be agri. These are the things that you can do, right? And manufacturing, small SMEs like industry, so many things that these days where everybody is trying to finance and go to these levels, especially that SDB bank also, I think, has been very much into this type of small, medium, and micro type of industries, which has been working well for you, right? And overall, I think we can select some of these segments. These are tourism, right? So consumption, so like retail consumption purposes. When you give personal loans, right? These are some of the things that you can do. In terms of retail, Ganeshan, what are the the products you have? You have personal loan, housing loan, pony. Is it? Are those the asset products?
Yes, sir.
You don't have credit cards, right?
Yeah, we don't have credit card.
But when you say the personal loans, you are into like professional categories as well, or you are? I heard that your personal loan exposure is mainly to senior citizens and the like pensioners and the armed forces, right?
Yeah.
Right. Haven't you been into that professional category, like salaried employees, doctors kind of thing? Have you been to that level?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are doing professional categories also.
But the major portfolio is with
Salaried employee.
right, because that is maybe you start with those sectors, right? So now we are moving to the other sectors also, right?
Yeah.
In terms of housing, how we are going to do housing? What are the like sectors or the clients that you have? Maybe have you granted housing loan to SME clients?
Housing loans, personal clients, and SME clients also.
Personal clients, but SME clients, have you started giving Kanchana, have you started giving housing loan to SME clients also? Any idea?
Yes.
Right. So through the business income, you try to give housing loans, right?
Yeah. Customer can get package of facilities.
Right. I mean to say that generally Many banks are not into the housing for SME clients, no, because people feel that it is not easy to track the cash flows and manage the cash flows for a longer period. Hence, they're reluctant to go for SME businessman. But in a salaried case that you don't have issue because you have a salaried income every month you are getting, and then you can service the loan for 10 to 15 years. But housing loan for businessman is not encouraged by many banks. That's what I asked. But in your case, that you have started giving housing loan to SME businessman as well.
Yes, considering the income source,
Right.
Customer can get the facility.
With the facility, right? What's your experience in servicing? Has many moved to the NPL, or it's like general like other facilities?
I think it's NPL somehow.
Right. Compared to retail clients, I think
yes.
SME has, that's what I have, more vulnerability, because we also had the same experience. Because what I am telling is like in SME, because their cash flows are very much fluctuating, but working capital, business loans, yes, they can manage because it's a short term, 3 to 4 maximum. But
their fluctuation affected to their repayments.
That's what I'm telling. Because now when you say housing loan, at least it's more than 10 to 15 years now anyway. So then we need to ensure the client, SME client's business being continued to that level. So then we need to see that at least their stability, experience, exposure about a greater period, then only, because all SME clients cannot be accommodated in a housing loan type of this thing, because as Kanchana correctly said, their fluctuations of cash flows have a bigger impact on repayment. But other than that, I think because anyway, when go to the recoveries and all that, you can do kind of recovery because we have a mortgage property and all that. But it's not a nice thing to do, no. So better we try to cover it at the cash flow level. So that is the kind of general experience all banks has. I just want to get your opinion as well. But in retail clients, I think it may be working well. Salaried or professional category, you don't have much NPLs.
Yes, I think.
Right. Because your overall NPL, net NPL is for the last first 6 months of the 2021, I suppose it's around 4.75 also. It's a good NPL rate compared to other banks, because since that you are into micro SME type of thing, but maintaining the NPL below 5% is commendable. Right? Anyway, due to pandemic and all that, it is still, it was a good ratio. Maybe it says that your underwriting quality and all that could be, and recovery efforts also been rightly working. Okay, so this is end of the part 1 of today's session. Any questions?
සර් මේක මේ කලින් කරපු ස්ලයිඩ් එකකට සම්බන්ධයි.
කියන්නේ
සර් අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දැන් කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක් එක කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක් කම්පැනි දෙක තුනක් රෙජිස්ටර් කරගෙන ඉන්නවා කම්පැනිස් විදියට. එතකොට එක කම්පැනි එක තමයි ඩීටේල්ස් අපිට දෙන්නේ. එයාගේ ඒ කම්පැනියේ ඩීටේල්ස්, බිස්නස් ඩීටේල්ස් ටික හොඳයි. සහ එයාගේ නමට තියෙන වෙන කම්පැනියක් ලෝන්ස් වල රීපේමන්ට් වලත් හොඳට නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවක එක කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක්ට කම්පැනි දෙක තුනක් එයාගේ නම රෙජිස්ටර් වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා අපිට හොයාගන්න මොකක් හරි විශේෂ ක්‍රමයක් තියෙනවද සර්? නැත්නම් ක්‍රිප් එකෙන් පොඩි අයිඩියා එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්.
ක්‍රිප් එකෙන්. මොකද එයාගේ NIC එක ටයිප් කරලා දානකොට අපිට සමහර වෙලාවට ඒ නමට තියෙන අනිත් ටික, මොකද එයා ඩිරෙක්ටර් කෙනෙක් හැටියට ඉන්නවා නම් අනිත් ටික අපිට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් එක. අනිත් එක තමයි හැබැයි අපිට ඒක තමයි මම අර කියාගෙන ගියේ SME මයික්‍රෝ එහෙම නැත්නම් even mid level SMEs ලාගේ තියෙන ගැටලුව අපිට මේ කස්ටමර් අයිඩෙන්ටිෆිකේෂන් එකේ ගැටලුවක් තියෙනවා. මොකද සමහර වෙලාවට එයා ඒක ටැක්ස් පර්පසස් වලට හරි මොනවා හරි ක්‍රමයකට එයා කරනවා ඒක. සමහරට ඒක අපිට කියන්නේ නැහැ. හරි? එතකොට අපිට තියෙන හැකියාව වෙන්න ඕනේ ඔය රිලේෂන්ෂිප් බැංක් කියන්නේ අපි සමහරලාවට දැන් if I tell kind of experience, දැන් සමහර වෙලාවට අපි ක්ලයන්ට් එක්ක ගිහිල්ලා ෆැසිලිටි එක කතා කරගෙන යනකොට පළවෙනි අවස්ථාවේදීම එයා අපිට දෙන ඉම්ප්‍රෙෂන් එක මෙහෙම මට ණයක් ඕනේ, මට මෙන්න මේ විදිහට මේ බිස්නස් එකට දාන්න ඕනේ, මිලියන 3ක් ඕනේ, 4ක් ඕනේ කියලා කියනවා. හැබැයි ඒක ඇත්තම කතාව නෙවෙයි. එතකොට ඔයා දවසක් එයාගේ ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා බිස්නස් එක බලලා ඔහොම ටික ටික රැපෝ එක හැදෙනකොට අන්තිමට එයා කියනවා මහත්තයා මට ඇත්තටම මිලියන 5ක් විතර ඕනේ. මේ සල්ලි මට ඕනේ මේ මම තව මගේ යාළුවෙක්ගෙන් මම ගත්ත මෙන්න මෙහෙම දෙයකට. ඒ ගත්තේ මගේ දුවගේ එහෙම නැත්නම් වෙඩින් එකට එහෙම නැත්නම් පුතා රට යවන්න එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයකට. ඉතින් මට මේ සල්ලි ටික අරගෙන බිස්නස් කියලා කිව්වට මෙන්න මේකයි කතාව. ඔන්න දැන් තමයි යාගේ රියල් ස්පෙસિෆික් එහෙම නැත්නම් පර්පස් එක අපිට කියන්නේ. එක. එතකොට ඊට පස්සේ තමයි ඔයාලට තේරෙන්නේ රයිට් ඇත්තටම එහෙමනම් මෙයාට මේ බිස්නස් ලෝන් එකක් දීලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. එඩියුකේෂන් පර්පස් එකට තමයි මේක ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. එහෙමනම් ටිකක් ටර්ම් අවුට් කරලා අවුරුදු 5කට විතර බිස්නස් එකේ කෑෂ් ෆ්ලෝ එකෙන් පේ කරන විදිහට මේට ලෝන් එක දෙන්න ඕන කියලා then you see the structure. ඒක අවස්ථාව. එතකොට අනිත් එක තමයි ක්‍රිබ් එකකින් වගේ දේවල් අපිට ආවේ නැත්නම් again අපිට we have to validate some of the information provided by the client. ඒක අපිට දෙනවනේ මෙච්චර ටර්නෝවර් එක මෙච්චර බිස්නස් මෙන්න මෙහෙම කරනවා. අපි ආව ක්‍රොස් චෙක් කර කර අහනකොට සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට එයාගේ other business interest, other income, other assets ඒවා අපිට අඳුන ගන්න හම්බ වෙනවා. ඒ හරහා තමයි අපිට යම් ප්‍රමාණයකට එයාගේ ඔය අනිත් බිස්නස් වල ඉන්කම් අනිත් එහෙම නැත්නම් කම්පැනිස් ඒ අනිත් මොනවද ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් වගේ දේවල් දැනගන්න හම්බෙන්නේ. එහෙම නැතුව ඇත්තටම very difficult. මොකද අපිට දැන් මෙහෙම දැන් හුඟක් වෙලාවට එයා එකක් ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් ළමට එහෙම නැත්නම් එයා තව කම්පැනියක් දාලා ඇති ඒකේ වයිෆ් වගේ වෙන්න පුළුවන් ඩිරෙක්ටර්. හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් එයාගේ බ්‍රදර් කවුරු හරි දාලා එහෙම ගත්තාම හරි අමාරුයි ගෲප් කරන්නවත් එහෙම එක්ස්පෝෂර් එකක් හොයාගන්න. එතකොට අර අපිට විශේෂයෙන් ඔය SME ලෙන්ඩින් වල එකයි අපිට තියෙන මේ අර තියෙන මේ චැලෙන්ජ් එක වගේම තියෙන බෙනිෆිට් එක තියෙන්නේ අපි ඒ ලෝකලයිස්ඩ් අපි තුන් බ්‍රාන්ච් එකක් ළඟ තියෙන ටිකකින් අපි අයට ෆන් කරන්න කියලා අපි කියන්නේත් even retail. එතකොට අපිට ඒ කස්ටමර් ගැන ලොකු අදහසක් අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් some sources available in the region. මොකද දැන් ඔය ක්‍රම දෙකම නැත්තම් අපිට යාත් එක හොඳ closely රැපෝ එකක් හදලා ගන්න විස්තර එහෙම නැත්නම් ක්‍රිබ් රිලේටඩ් ටික ගන්න නැත්තම් ඊළඟට තියෙන දේ තමයි අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔය අපිට තියෙන බ්‍රාන්චස් වල මැනේජර්ස්ලත් එක්ක අපි ක්ලෝස් තියෙන පොඩි ඉන්ෆෝමල් නෙට්වර්ක් එකක්. එතකොට අපි ඒක හරහා දැන් අපිට මෙහෙම කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක් ආවා අපිට ආවා මම කොහොමද මචං ඔයගොල්ලන්ටත් ආවද අන්න ඒ වගේ so we have some develop some internal links. එතකොට right දැන් ඔයාලගේ බිස්නස් එක එයා නම් අපි මේකෙන් ගත්ත මේ බිස්නස් එකකුත් තියෙනවා ඔයාලට අන්න then we know there's another business under him. දැන් අපිත් එක්ක එන්නේ සමහරවිට අපි තුමු ටිම්බර් ස්ටෝර් එකේ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එයාට තව එකක් තියෙනවා පොඩි ඔය වෙහිකල් හය කරන එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් තාම මොන හරි මේ බ්‍රෝකරින් වැඩ. නැත්නම් ඔය ඔක්කොටම වඩා මනි ලෙන්ඩින් ටිකුත් කරනවා. අපි දන්නේම නැහැ. තේරුණාද? එතකොට ඇත්තටම මෙයාගේ මේන් සෝස් ඔෆ් ඉන්කම් මනි ලෙන්ඩින්. අර ඊටු දෙක තුනක් තියෙන්නේ පේන්න. දැන් අපිට ඒක දැනගන්න එකවර බෑ. එතකොට ඔය කියන ඉන්ෆෝමල් ලින්ක්ස් වලින් හරි අපිට ඒ වගේ දෙයක් කරගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා පුළුවන් වෙනවා. එහෙම නැති වුණොත් අපිට ලේසි නැහැ ඔය කියන විදිහට ඒ ක්ලයන්ට් ගෙන් ඒ විස්තර ටික ගන්න. It's a challenging task but we can do. මොකද ඒක කරන්නේ අර මම අර කිව්වාගේ through the links that we have. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔය තුනම නැත්නම් සමහර වෙලාවට maybe if it's a new customer that you are discussing කියලා හිතන්න. එයා දන්න තව ඔයාගේ existing හොඳ customer කෙනෙක් ඉන්න පුළුවන්. So you can check with him. හැබැයිම reference එකක් ගන්න බලන්න මෙහෙම අපේ කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා කොහොමද එයා දන්නවද මොනවද එයා කරන්නේ? It's no harm. ඒක ගැටලුවක් නෑ මොකද අරයාගේ good faith අරගෙන අපි confidentially අපි ගන්න. මොකද වාගේ ඉන්නවනේ branch එකක කොහොමදම customers 10ක් කරේ 15ක් කරේ. ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් අපිට අරගන්න පුළුවන් කොහොමද මොකද්ද විස්තරේ කොහොමද මේ කෙරෙන්නේ තේරෙනවද? ඒ විදිහට තමයි අපිට ඔයගේ information එක ගන්න. මොකද otherwise there is no method to extract proper validated information from a client. පැහැදිලිද?
Okay, sir.
Right. So, any other questions? Sahan, Ranjan, Tisar, Pasan, you are there but not asking questions. So apparently, I presume that all what we are discussing is, it's with fine, good with you. But if anything, please let me know. Even after the lecture, you can, talk to me. No harm. But if you do have any questions on today's what we are discussing, please raise it so that we can then and there we can answer and go forward. Sumit, are you working in a branch?
Yes, I'm working in Galela branch.
Galela, you were telling me, right? So that day
Yes.
also you have so many agri-related clients, kind of, right?
Yes.
What's like total asset portfolio there, Sumit?
Total loan portfolio in our branch almost 600 million.
එතකොට
Yes.
Sumit, what capacity you are doing? You are the credit manager, එහෙම නැත්නම්
I'm a SME relationship officer of branch.
right, SME relationship. So එතකොට
Yes.
you have retail කියලා කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවද නැහැ?
No, retail loans also doing by me, and also SME loans. Our branch is
A small branch.
started, yes.
So එතකොට
Only
ඔයා
3
යටතේ
years.
right. So you have two people BDOs like නේ. එතකොට
Yes.
SME වලටත් එක්කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා retail. But you are overall in charge for both SME and retail දෙකටම.
Yes, sir.
Right. What is the retail portfolio under you?
Retail portfolio almost 50% of the total loan portfolio.
You have sizable customers also, retail clients also, even Galela, නේ?
Yes, sir.
That's
But the
so,
deposit asset portfolio is almost 300 million. So LDR ratio
50%.
200%. Yes.
You mean to say that you have deposit is 200, but your lending is
600 million almost.
So it should be better if it is the other way around, right? Because
Yes.
if you can source more deposit, then you can further grow. No? So you have more lending proposition there even under this pandemic. ඒ පැත්තේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් තව lend කරගන්න එහෙම පුළුවන්ද?
Now we are moving for the especially the dairy sector is operating well in this area.
Okay. So then
And
dairy that you can give even personal loans to this, right?
Personal loans, yes.
Again, entrepreneurs la women වගේ එහෙම නැත්නම් gender identify කරගෙන ඔගොල්ලෝ දෙනවා.
Yes.
Right.
අපේ ටිකට් සයිස් එක ගොඩක් ලොකුත් නෑ ලක්ෂ 5-10 අතර වගේ තමයි dairy farmers වගේ.
The thing is, when you say that people are talking about bigger ticket size on that, so that's good too in terms of our economies of scale පැත්තෙන් හොඳයි. But in other way around, in like area, if you are thinking about 10 million facility for a client, so the negative side is when the 10 million guy in Galevela might come with all bargain in. එයා කියයි මට ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් රේට් එක ලෝකේ තියෙන අඩුම රේට් එක මට ඕනේ. හරිද? මේ සර්විස් එක ඕනේ ඔක්කොම කියලා අපි දෙනකොට the margin may not be good enough for your effort. ඒ පැත්තේ. say එක ඉන්ස්ටෝල්මන්ට් එකක් පරක් වුණා කියන්නේ. දැන් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඉම්පයර්මන්ට් එක. දැන් බකට් මූව්මන්ට් වලට ඉම්පයර්මන්ට් හැදෙනවනේ. current එක 1 to 30. See the impact about 10 million, how much you are getting and impact of the profitability. That is also issue. ඊට පස්සේ අපි හිතන්න when it's going to recovery and all that, because it's a 10 million and he might be the one of the best guy there, so he might have all influencers, no politicians that කියයි අර හිත කියයි මෙහෙට කියයි, so you are in a bad wicket to recover that also. So 10 million person give up so many trouble to the branch. Then මම කියන්නේ ඒක දැන් සමහර වෙලාවට yes it's good in terms of say Colombo branch 10 million is not a big deal මොකද එයා සාමාන්‍ය කෙනෙක් අනිත් අයත් එහෙමයි ඉන්නේ හින්දා. But when come to the Galevela, 10 million may not be very good very good proposition because you have so many other small good customers. අපි ලක්ෂ 3 4 5 දාගෙන මම දන්නවා it is not easy to underwrite and facilitate, but for that we need to have different solutions. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි හිතමු දැන් underwriting ගත්තොත් if it is a 500,000 facility, you need not to spare more than a 2-page write-up. ඒක 1 million නම් 3 page වලින් නවත්ත ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. If it is a 5 million and above, yes, we can go to 6 pages. Like those are the things that we need to accommodate in a process level that we have to decide with the management and all that. So ඒකෙන් කරොත් අපේ effort එක අඩු වෙනවනේ. මොකද දැන් when you say the 2 million loan එකට පිටු 7ක් ලියන්න, you don't have adequate information. ඒක තේරුමකුත් නැහැ. If you go by the 6Cs, you say what is the character, මෙහෙම කළා ඒ ටික බලලා then you have to give it. එහෙම නැත්නම් dairy වගේ set එකක් ගත්තොත් overall you clear it. It is good for our area. Other bankers also doing. There is the potential for this. එහෙම කිව්වහම ඒ ටිකම ඇති. That's what I am telling. Industry එකෙන් අපි clear කරලා ගත්තාම එතකොට industry risk එකක් දැන් අඩුයි. ඊට පස්සේ තියෙන්නේ people risk එක. People risk එක තමයි ඔයා පිටුවකින් දෙකකින් ඔයා කරන exposure එක, experience එක. එතකොට මෙයා නැත්තම් එයා කවුද කරන්නේ? කොහොමද cash ටික collect කරන්නේ? එතකොට know how එක කොහොමද ඒ වගේ සතු ඇති කරන්න? තේරෙනවද? ඒ වගේ දේ එතකොට එතන තියෙන infrastructure support එක කවුද vet කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවද? So those are the things that we need to see it. And if everything is good, then your profession is working. So those are the things, Sumit, that we need to work on.
Yes.
අපි දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ රයිට් අප් එකක් ගත්තත් for 200 300,000 එකට ගොඩාක් ලියනවද? පේපර් එක ගත්තොත්
පිටු 3-4 වගේ සර් පේපර් එක.
ඒක තමයි සුට්ටක් බලන්න ඕනේ. මොකද දැන් පිටු 3-4 because I am also coming from that where as a state officer started from Kurunagala and all that. ඒතර ඇත්තටම සමහරවිට අර අපි කියනවා repetitive information නේ. දැන් පිටු 3-4 ලියන්න දෙයක් තියනවාද කියලා හිතෙනවා maybe when you say 200,000 loan එකට. Maybe but my thing actually what we have developed is something, let's say dairy for example. අපි හිතමු 25 customers ලා identify කරගන්න. Maybe 1 page or 2 page you give an overview of the sector. A පැත්තේ operations ඔක්කොම. Then maybe 1 page that you say this නම ගම ඔක්කොම ටික දාලා, finance requirement එක දාලා, equity ටික දාලා, terms ටික දාලා 1 page. So like that.
අපේ සර් ස්කෝර් කාඩ් කියලා සිස්ටම් එකක් තියෙනවා. සිස්ටම් එකට ඉන්කම් එක දාලා ලක්ෂ 5ට වඩා අඩු loans ටික කරගන්න පුළුවන් එකේ තියෙනවා.
ඒක නෑ. මොකද නැත්තම් අපිට අපි කියන effort එක ගොඩක් කලකට අපරාධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right, so those are the, I think you have, done everything possible. I know that that's why you are doing that great, even the small ticket size compared to other big banks. Even recently I had a chat with one of your seniors that he was telling me, because now I think this lower segment entrepreneurs and lower segment of economy, no other banks is doing a job like SDB is doing. Because අපි ගත්තොත් දැන් state mortgage වෙන්න පුළුවන්, housing development වෙන්න පුළුවන්, state mortgage වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඔය කියන මේවා කියන RRDBs, region development කියලා ඔය ටික ගත්තොත් එහෙම, but you are doing it differently. So that's why the success story, because this is a digital platform and all that. So අපිට එකෙන් leverage කරගන්න පුළුවන් වුණොත් I think it's a sky is the limit kind of the proposition you have. මොකද දැන් ලොකු බැංකු කවදාවත් ඔතෙන් දෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. So even personal loan I know that ඒගොල්ලෝ target කරනවා 5 million 6 million 7 million වලට යන්න. ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ නැහැ below 1 million වලට. So below 1 million there may be very good customers, right? So then you can target those clients. So this is how you need to build the retail portfolio also. Like even maybe in the the Galewala and all that, so you might have some tourism exposures as well, right? Because there are so many tourist hotels doing good. Then මේ පොඩ්ඩක් මේ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
සර් අපි කලින් කියන්නේ අවුරුදු 3කට කලින් දඹුල්ල බ්‍රාන්ච් එකෙන් ටූරිසම් වලට කරා හොඳට ලොන්ස්. දැන් සම්පූර්ණ ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එක අවුල් හින්දා අතහැරලාම දාලා තියෙනවා.
But no, it will be revived very soon. But without that even country can't go forward also. මට හිතෙනවා මොකද එතන ඉන්න ගොඩක් employees ලට මේ ඕගලන්ට මං හිතන්නේ ලෙඩ් කරන්න පුළුවන් ඇති.
පුළුවන් සර්. අපි කරලා තියෙන්නේ companies වලට. හැබැයි දැන් මේ companies වල හිටපු ගොඩක් employees ලා job එකක් දාලා ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන 50% වගේ.
ඒ ටික ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ දැන් employee
නෑ සර් යාලා ඒ ගියපු අලුත් jobs එක අපහු ගෙවාගෙන යනවා නේද? ඔව් මොරටෝරියම් දීලා තිබ්බ පහු ගිය කාලේ.
තිබ්බා ගොඩක් දුන්නනේ අපි. තාම සමහර personal loans වල මොරටෝරියම් ටිකක් තියෙනවා නේ.
තියෙනවා සර් තියෙනවා.
Right. Okay, good. So then we'll move to the second part. There is a part 2 where we try to understand guidelines for good lending, culture, classification of credit facilities, advanced securities. මේ ටික අපි second module එකේදී අපි කතා කරන්නට බලමු. Now we have actually couple of lending methodologies, but generally we can identify two main types of lending. One is asset based, security based, collateral based lending. The other one is skill, project, cash flow based lending. I think SDB is doing both type of lending right now, if I am not mistaken. Like say pawning, cashback loan, property loan are some of the security based. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි හිතමු even run mini, එහෙම නැත්නම් pawning, එහෙම නැත්නම් cashback, එහෙම නැත්නම් collateral ගත්තොත් collateral එකේ value එක අනුව we can give a loan to a customer. Then very much worried of the repayment. Right? Even the OD, maybe 1 million OD against a 5 million property, you do rather than you think about how the client pay 1 million in case of a sudden demand of the facility. Because අපි cash flow එකක් current account එක බලලා limit එකක් mark කරනවා. So predominantly we depend on security. The rest is cash flow base, skill base. ඒක තමයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ගෙත් ගොඩක් වැඩි. If you take now, Sumit was just mentioning to me about tourism industry. ඒ tourism එකේ හිටපු hotels වල හිටපු employees ලගේ salary එක base කරගෙන ඔයගොල්ලෝ දුන්නා 2 times, 3 times, 5 times loans. What's your proposition? Understanding is they will pay from their salary. That's a cash flow. Now you are telling me about dairy industries, for example. Dairy ekata you give some capital, capex monhari financing ut karana, working capital ut karana. So what's your understanding? So they earn using that money. They earn money in future. That's a future cash flow. But what you are looking at is the skill, their experience, how good they at their industry. Ada scorecard එකෙන් උත් අන්තිමට පේන්නේ ගුරු වයස, කොච්චර කාලයක් ඒගොල්ලෝ මේවා කරාද, how many cattle they have, right? එතකොට කලින් ගත ණය කොහොමද මේවා කරේ, how many dependents, right? එතකොට health condition, ඔය වගේ මොන හරි ටිකක් නේ අපි බලන්නේ scorecard එකේ. එතකොට ඒකෙදි හොඳ ලකුණක් එනවා කියලා කියන්නේ because they are good at operation, their skill, capacity, experience. එතකොට ඒකෙන් හොඳයි නම් we give a 200,000-300,000 loan. And then based on the skill, based on the cash flow, future cash flow, right? So every time we do both type of lending, but we can't say this is good, this is bad. It depends, right? So then sometimes we have to do collateral based lending. Then අපි කිව්වොත් property එකක් දැන් owning for example, it's purely asset backed no. දැන් owning customer කෙනෙක් අපි ආවම අහනවා ඔයා මේක ගත්තා, මේ සල්ලි මොකටද ගන්නෙ, මොකටද පාවිච්චි කරේ, එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයා මේක මට කොහොමද ගෙවන්නේ, මට cash flow එකක් ඔයාලට දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒ ප්‍රශ්න ඇහුවොත් එයා ඊළඟ දවසේ ඔයාට owning කරන්න එනවද? නැහැ. He just want like over the counter transaction. කාටවත් පේන්නේ නැතුව ආව වැඩ කරලා සල්ලි ගත්ත කියලා. That's what the owning. Let's say cashback transaction එකක් ආවම අපි ඇහුවොත් right මේ ගත්ත මොකටද ගන්නේ, මොකටද use කරන්නේ, අපිට කොහොමද cash flow ගෙවන්නේ, කවද්ද මේක ගෙවන්නේ, ඔක්කොම අහා හිටියොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? He might not be interested. යා කෑ මේ මගේ සල්ලිනේ මට ඔයාට මේක තියාගෙන දෙන්න බැරි නම් එන්න මේ ඕන තරම් බැංකු තියෙනවා, I can get it. You can't ask even the purpose. Right? Know your customer එකනේ වැඩේ කරන එක හරි. What is the assurance we have? We have a letter of set off. Give නැත්තම් 90% දෙන්නේ, we can set it off. Right? That's a kind of a transaction, kind of a product we have. ඒක වැරදි කියන එක නෙමෙයි මම කියන්නේ. There are some products we need to know. There are some customer base for that. But make sure a proper guidelines to be followed. දැන් cashback ගත්තොත් letter of set off එක හරියට තියෙන්න ඕනේ. own cash නැද්ද කියලා දැනගන්න ඕනේ. third party නම් third party consent එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. third party නම් අපි එයාට කතා බතා හරි මොන හරි කලයක ensure කරගන්න ඕනේ. So those are the things that we need to ensure. නැත්තම් ඉවරලා then we have seen so many frauds are happening. third party කියලා manager හරි කවුරුහරි එකතු වෙලා කාගේ හරි අස්සනක් ගහලා ඔන්න දීලා ඉවරයි. අරයා දන්නෙත් නැහැ deposit එක වෙන කෙනෙකුට දීලා. So third party very critical because asset back නේ. අපිට ඔන්ලාට මේක lot of set off එකෙන් සල්ලි ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන විදිහට process එක තියෙනවා. Even now property back ගත්තත් so you need to ensure the value of the property. හරි අපි හිතමු මොකක් හරි අක්කර ගානක තියෙන property එකක් මිලියන 5යි කියලා කිව්වහම ඒකට against facility එකක් දෙනකොට you need to ensure that whether the property has the marketability. හරි like realizability. Enforce කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් අපි හිතමු අක්කර 5ක agree land එකක් තියෙනවා හෙන්න කඳු ගොඩක් තියෙන. අපි හිතමු example සුමිත් මාතලි ඔය රිවර්ස්ටර්න් මේ පැත්තට වගේ මේ බේස් කරපු එකක් තියෙනවා. So good. Value is there. But is it easy to sell it? No, you might not. කවුරු එක ගියාම access ටික බලන්න ගියාම මිනිහට කිය අපෝ ඔච්චර ටික කරන්න අමාරුයි ගන්න කවුරුත් නැහැ. Value is there. Fine anyway. 7 million වලට value කර හැකියි. But realizability, marketability එක in a forced sale condition may not be there. ඊට වඩා සමහරවිට අපිට කියන්න බලන්න පාරක් ගාව තියෙන purchase 7 square land එකක්, එතකොට access හොඳට තියෙන flat land එකක් තිබ්බොත් very easy to sell it. Don't you need to see what is my collateral, what is my asset. ඒක බලාගෙන තමයි මම එහෙමනම් asset backed lending එක කරන්නේ. The other one cash flow skill based වෙනකොට you might not very much interested on the security. එහෙම කියලා security ගන්න එපා කියන එක නෙවෙයි. Security is important, good to have it, but security එක නැහැ කියාගෙනම අපි lend නොකර ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ නැහැ. Right? Let's say the based on the potential. Now if you go to the dairy, now Sumit was telling me ඒගොල්ලන්ට property එකක් නැහැ. security එකක් නැහැ. Though the security is there is no clear title කියලා. අපි ඒක නොකර ඉන්නේ නෑනේ. We might give, because we might get the personal guarantee, we might give the kind of a corporate group this thing, we might get some kind of assignment from the CIC or whatever their dairy supplier, direct transfers to particular accounts. ඒවා බලලා අපි කරනවා. We might not ask collateral always. මොකද දැන් collateral එකට වඩා weight එකක් අපි දෙනවා skill cash flow එකට. Right? The potential future prospects of it. So those are the two methods in generally we expecting them to proceed. Then generally when you give a loan to client, there are several ways out. අපි කියනවා first way, second way, third way කියලා. Right? How we are going to recover the credit. The first way out is no other explanation. There is cash flow. අපි loan එකක් දුන්නාම ඒක recover වෙන්න ඕනේ cash flows වලින්. Right? එයාගේ එක්කෝ existing cash flow වෙන්න පුළුවන්, future cash flows වලින් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. That's number one. Number two, in unforeseen circumstances, we need to go by property realization. Parati hari, debt recovery hari actions වලට ගිහිල්ලා we need to recover our money through realization of the asset. Number two. Third one, which I have not mentioned here, you can write it down. That is the guarantees we have obtained. It could be personal or corporate guarantee, because it's very remote, difficult to enforce in case the client is not going to give, but you have to go to courts, put a personal case, right? We call debt recovery or money recovery mortgage action. Tedious, lengthy process, but still we have option. Api then, if in take the same example, Sumit, then api dunnata passe, right? Etakota a client even නැත්තම් we might have obtained a personal guarantee, right? So that personal guarantee, if everything is not working, so we can go to courts against that the guarantee we have obtained. Right? That's the last resort, the third way out. But remember, when taking personal guarantees or the corporate guarantees, we need to ensure the net worth. In ගන්නම් වාලේ අරගෙන වැඩකුත් නැහැනේ. Affidavit එකක් හරි අරගෙන, එයාගේ assets මොනවා හරි අරගෙන, එයාගේ liabilities අරගෙන net worth එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. දැන් අපි හිතමුකෝ අර පුරුද්දට guarantees දෙන මිනිස්සෙක් ඉන්නවා කියලා. හරි? එතකොට බලන්න ගියාම එයාගේ වත්කම ඇවිල්ලා රුපියල් මේ මිලියන 10යි. හැබැයි guarantee තියලා තියෙනවා මිලියන 100කට. Is it worth getting the guarantee? No. ඉතින් වැඩක් නැහැ නේ. එයාට සූ කරාට පස්සේ මිලියන 10 නම් අපිට හම්බෙලා තියෙන්නේ. හරි. ඊට පස්සේ මිලියන 100ක් තියෙනවා guarantees විතරක් දීලා. So no point. එතකොට අපි guarantee එකක් ගන්න ක්‍රම දෙකක් තියෙනවා. එකක් තියෙනවා අපි just to motivate. Mentally පොඩි මේව එකක් වගේ කරන right අන්න අරයට මම ලියුමක් කියවුවා එයාට කතා කරලා එයා මෙයාට කතා කරනකොට I am feel guilty I should pay. That is like just to have guarantee. The sake of having. That's a kind of a commitment, some motivation, obligation type. The other one is there may be claimable situation. If the particular person who is providing the guarantee has adequate assets, net worth, so we are in a better position. Right? Then we facility 500,000. But we are getting the guarantee from a reputed rice miller in the area. එයා දෙනවා. මොකද අපි සමාජලාවට අපි යාට දෙනවා පොර එහෙම නැත්නම් cultivation loans ටික. ඒතර අපි දන්නවා ඒ ටික recover වෙන්නේ මෙයාට දෙන supplies fee ටික දුන්නාම එයාගෙන් අපිට එනවා. So එතකොට we have some arrangement, tripartite arrangement එකකුත් තියෙන ගමන් අපි we are getting the the company corporate guarantee එකක් ගත්ත කිම rice mill private limited එකේ. That is sounds well. මොකද එයා good asset එකක්. මොකද එයා අපිට අවිල්ලා ඔක ගෙවන එකක් නෑ, but he has the control over these people. Being providing the guarantee, he has some obligation. අර නිකම්ම මම සල්ලි දුන්නොත් බඩු දුන්නොත් සල්ලි වෙනවට අමතරව now we think මමත් guarantee එක දීලානේ තියෙන්නේ. මේ customers ලා NPL ගියොත් I have some bearing on my company. That will work. Right? So basically what I try to learn here is generally we have two types of lending categories, asset based and the cash flow based, and ways out like how we are going to recover the credit is first way out, second way out, third way out. First way out is cash flow, second way out is the security which we have pledged, third way out is the guarantees that we have obtained. Any questions? This is very important even for a exam, in case at the end of the course you might being tested on these 10 principles. So මේ slide එක චුට්ටක් මතක තියාගන්න. එතනින් එහාට එකක් ගැන short notes වගේ මොනවා හරි වගේ આવුත් line එකක් දෙකක් ලියන්න. ඒක චුට්ටක් මතක තියාගන්න because these are fundamentals. Lending principles, best practices. But every one of you, credit officers, branch managers, credit managers, centralized credit, important. Whenever you evaluate credit proposal, whenever you interview a client, when you are promoting, canvassing a client, when you are approving a credit, better you know these things are there in the credit proposition, credit proposal. We go one by one. Safety, liquidity, profitability, spread, purpose, end use, need base, viability base, own stake, national priority. These are not new, very simple, just some fundamentals. This is very important. So you need to understand these things, better when you are like, dealing with clients. What's safety? Major concern for the banker. Ability of the banker to critically assess the borrower's capacity to repay the borrowed amounts together with interest. In present context, this fact is very important because we now experience problem credit even soon after the moratorium. Safety. මේ safety කියලා කියන්නේ අපි invest කරන මුදල කොච්චර ආරක්ෂිතද? invest කරන මුදල කියලා කියන්නේ we are trying to give a facility to a client, and then our prime responsibility is to recover with the due interest and the capital. So why that we are supposed to do is because we are intermediary. This money not belong to you, your bank, is from another party we call depositor. එතකොට bankers' responsibility is to give this money and to use for intended purpose and get the repayment adequately. For that, what we need to ensure is we need to ensure the capacity, suitability, creditworthiness of the borrower. So I will explain how we are going to measure, how we're going to evaluate that in the next day through several models, because that to be ensured. දැන් අපි සල්ලි වල safety එක කිව්වට මේක දීලා ගන්නවා කියන එක ලේසි නැහැ. If we haven't done the homework properly, might not be easy. Then ඒක ඇත්තටම could happen due to your own fault or maybe beyond your fault. Now, Sumit was telling me on tourism, very lucrative, attractive. Those days, we were lavishly giving money to employees who are in the tourism sector. හැබැයි දැන් අපිට උනේ ඒක අපේ වැරද්දක් හින්දා නෙවෙයි, ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේ ඉෂුව එකක් හින්දා ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපිට රීපේ කරගන්න බෑ. So luckily now they are paying through another job, another income, right? We are still following them. එතකොට safety is in question. දැන් අපි අපේ ප්‍රශ්නයකටවත් client ගේ ප්‍රශ්නයකටවත් නෙවෙයි ඒක උනේ, ඒක industry එකේ ප්‍රශ්නයකට තමයි දැන් impact එක උනේ. We never expected to corona to come, Easter Sunday to come. So but the safety in question. එතකොට as much as possible we need to ensure the safety in every transaction when you give money out. Now, in the present context, even after moratorium I was mentioning, it's a huge challenge for us to get the money. But then after moratorium moratorium interest එකත් add වෙලා දැන් අතෙන්ට තියෙනවා. Now the client has to pay not only normal loan installment and moratorium installment also. Samahara industries has not revived yet. So cash flows are not adequate now. We need to have a close monitoring on the client transaction, client businesses, client cash flows until we get our dues settled. Not only capital, together with the interest also. So thereby, you need to have a proper monitoring, controlling, follow-up. Sometimes you might have to offer restructures, reschedulement further, extended period. Otherwise, they are unable, right? So the central banks allowed us to do so. So it's a vigilant, proactive call you need to take in order to get everything recovered. So that's safety. If any questions, please raise, right? Then liquidity. අපි වෙනතන කරත් අපි කතා කරා මේ liquidity කියන එක asset liability mismatch එකක් කරන liquid risk එකක් වෙනවා. This is what we are commenting, elaborating further here. Bankers' ability get the advances liquidated expeditiously. Because we are in a financial intermediation, customer deposits should be paid immediately or at short notice. It's very important the present context, again, problem loans and NPS. මේ මොකද්ද කියන්නේ? අර වගේම intermediation role එකේදී we get the money from depositors and we lend to the borrowers, and timely recovery is very important. නැත්තම් liquidity risk එකක් එනවා. Especially under the present circumstances, clients are, difficult in servicing, NPLs are increasing, so the provision has to be kept. එතකොට අපිට cash flow මදි වුණොත් මේ පැත්තේ depositors ලා ඉල්ලන විදිහට because right now also see a trend, the clients, depositors also in a difficult wicket because the cost of living has gone up. They want some money. Sometimes they might come and encash what are their deposits. Uplift කරන්න පුළුවන් premature. එක requirement එක. එතකොට දැන් අපිට ඒවට සල්ලි ගෙවන්න තියාගන්න දැන් අර අපි plan කරපු දේවල් එන්නත් වෙයි. ඒතර ඒක පරක්කු වෙනවා නම් liquidity crisis එකක් වෙනවා. I mean start with the branch, then go to the region, then go to the bank, even a countrywide liquidity crisis එකක්. So it is us to manage this liquidity. අර කියන්න ලේසි කරන්න ගියාම තමයි මේ ටික අමාරු වෙන්නේ. But අපි එතනදී plan out කරන්න ඕනේ. Whenever you are extending credit, you need to make a mix of advances. අපි කියනවා වගේ short term deposits අරගෙන අපි long term lend කරොත් එimhe තනිකර වැරදිනේ. අපි අවුරුද්දකට mature වෙන deposit අරගෙන අවුරුදු 10කට 15කට අපි දෙනවා housing loan විතර. එතනම අවුලක් තියෙනවනේ. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. අපිට අපි deposits ගත්තොත් short, medium, long mature වෙන විදිහට deposits වන්න. ඒක තමයි අපි කියන්නේ kids accounts, senior citizens accounts, එහෙම නැත්නම් business accounts, women entrepreneur. ඒ වගේ ගොඩාක් අපි එක එක විදිහට NKIPs, NPIPs, investments accounts අපි මේ ධන යෝජන විස්තර ඔය ඇයි මේ mix එකක් හදන්නේ? ඒ mix එකක් හදන්නේ ඒ එකවර හැමෝම ඒ සල්ලි ඉල්ලන්නේ නැති වෙන විදිහට තමයි මේ mix එක හැදෙන්නේ. දැන් kids ගත්තොත් අවුරුදු 18 වෙනකම් අපි දන්නවා මේ සල්ලි ටික ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉල්ලන්නේ නැහැ. වැඩි විවි යනවා. හරි ඒ වගේම තමයි senior citizens ගත්තත් සෑහෙන කාලයක් chance එකක් තියෙනවා they may live with the interest. ඒතකොට ඒක අරගෙන කරනවා අඩු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. business accounts නම් ගන්නවා දානවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතකොට that's how you managing your liquidity portfolio. So deposit portfolio එකේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ හැම මොන හරි ක්‍රමයක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. daily dashboard එකක්. So what are my maturing, what are my attritions, deposit කොච්චරද යන්නේ කොච්චරද. So do we have that Ganeshan or Sumit at your branches? Any sort of daily MIS එකක් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට එනවද? Sumit එහෙම මොකක් හරි mechanism එකක් තියෙනවද අපිට ඔය deposits පැත්තේ? ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ branches වල?
daily report එකක් generate වෙන්නේ නැහැ සර් දැන්ට මන්
ඒක කොහොමද කියලා අපි මේ දැනගන්න. දැන් උදාහරණයකට අපි ගමු හැමදාම උදේ එනකොට එහෙම නැත්නම් අද දවසේ මගෙන් deposit මොනවා හරි එළියට යන්න තියෙනවද මට deposit මොනවා හරි එන්නේ එහෙම එකක් නෑ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ manually එහෙම බලන්න.
ගොඩක් වෙලාවට manually තමයි සර් branch වලින් දැනට.
ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් system වල දැන් අර BI reports එම ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ නැද්ද? centralized අපි දැන් work bank වල තියෙනවනේ BO reports එම කියලා අපි ගන්නවා නේද? ඒ වගේ අරගෙන මෙහෙම එකක්
head office මට්ටමින් ගන්නවා සර් එහෙම reports.
ඒක branch වලටම එන්නේ නෑ.
නෑ branch වලින්ම direct එහෙම ගන්න නැහැ.
right but branch වල ඔයගොල්ලන් dashboard වගේ එහෙම එකකුත් නෑ. අර අපි හිතන්න පුදා දැන් අපි normally සමහර bank වල I have seen that ගියාම අපි දන්නවා right maybe this week what are the new loans going to be booked, new deposits, what are the deposit එළියට යන්නේ ඒ වගේ මොකුත්
dashboard යනවා sir. dashboard loans වලට වෙනවා pipelines යනවා
right.
ඊට පස්සේ ඩිපොසිට් වලටත් පයිප්ලයින්ස් වෙනම යනවා. ඒ අලුතෙන්ම තමයි ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ දැන් අවුරුද්දක් විතර වගේ.
ඒකයි මම හැබැයි ඒක දැන් තාම අර සිස්ටම් පර්ස්පෙක්ටිව් නෑ බට් මැනුවලි ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒක කරනවා.
ඔව් සිස්ටම් දැන් ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් වෙගෙන යන්නේ සර්. දැන් තමයි හරියට ඒක
යන්නේ. මොකද ඒක හරි ලේසි. එතකොට අපි දන්නවා like let's say වටාද මේ මාසෙට මොනවද මැචුර් වෙන්නේ මගේ ඩිපොසිට්ස්. මොනවද එළියට යන්නේ. So if you know that you know there's a big deposit is moving out, ඔයා එදා උදේ වෙනකන් ඉන්නේ නැහැ. You try to do එකක් තමයි ආපහු convince කරලා මොනවා හරි කරලා ඒක retain කරගන්න බලනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒ deposit එක යනකොට you try to bring some other deposits to here. ඒක තමයි මම සුමිත්තර කිව්වේ හුඟක් වෙලාවට අපි self sufficient වෙනවා නම් branch එකක් අපේ deposit portfolio එකයි lending portfolio එක සමාන හෝ deposit එක වැඩිපුර එතකොට for that we need that type of information. නැත්නම් අපිට කියන්න බෑ මම දැන් ඒක මම manually මම හදනවා තව කෙනෙක් හදනවා එහෙම බෑ.
MIC කියන්නේ FD maturity period එකත් එක්ක අරගෙන අපි deposit කරන එහෙම වීඩියෝ හරි ඉන්නවා නම් follow කරගෙන යනවා. එහෙම තමයි මෙච්චර කාල තිබ්බේ. දැන් deposit වලට නම් එහෙම තමයි වෙන්නේ. withdrawal එකක් එනවා නම් ගොඩක් වෙලා customer relationship එකත් එක්ක එයාලා කලින් inform කරනවා branch එකට.
මේවා කරගන්න නේ. ඒක අර system wide bank wide තාම දුරට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. එහෙම තිබුණා නම් බේසි සමානට දැන් example එකට in our bank so they know manager ගෙන් අහුවාම what are the deposits අද කොච්චරද අද හවස මොනවා හරි යන්න තියෙනවද weekly කොහොමද කියලා ගත්තොත් he knows the numbers from the system. ඒතර easy නේ. නැත්නම් එයා දැන් තව කෙනෙක් manually හදනවා එයා නිවාඩුගේ දවසට තව ඉච්චර ගියාම කරදරයි නෝක. so අර ඒක එහෙමම එනවනම් our life will be easy. එතකොට අපි දන්නවා දැන් loans උත් එහෙමයි. දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් මෙච්චර approve වෙනවා මෙන්න මේ ටික කරන්න තියෙනවා. ඒක අපි discuss වෙනවා. so by end of this month so we are to this level. Right? I mean, those are the things that you know. Right. Okay, now, other system එකේ සමහරට ටික පිළිවෙලට එනවා ඇති. Very good. Right. So then liquidity, so it can be managed in that way, right? So that's what I want to say. Now then you know upfront, proactively, you know what are the deposits that moving out, what are the deposits that we are canvas and coming in. Right? So ඒක උනහම අපි branch level we are trying to manage. So then obviously zone level, region level, bank level, it will be completed. So that's what the concept we call liquidity. Especially now this is like branch manager, credit manager responsibility of the liquidity, right? Then that if you know that you have a liquidity issue, then even when you are canvassing the new facilities, that you need to keep that in mind. Then එතකොට අපි කල්පනා කරොත් දැන් අපි සමහරවිට if the client wanted very short term advances, එතකොට අපිට ඇත්තටම අපි දකිනවා නම් අපි ගාව cash නැත්තම් එයාට දෙන්න හැම වෙලේම we need to go to head office and get the money kind of thing means that you need to enhance your deposit base කියන එක තමයි එකෙන් තියෙන්නේ. දැන් එහෙම කරේ නැහැ කියලා head office එකෙන් සල්ලි දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක නෙවෙයි, but then you know exactly within the branch we have a asset liability mismatch එකක්. එතකොට across the branch network asset liability mismatch එකක් තියෙනවා නම් අර අපි කියන interest rate risk එකක්, forex risk එකක්, liquidity risk එකක්, credit risk එකක් එනවා. එතකොට අපිට ලොකු hit එකක් bank wide දෙනවා. ඒක manage කරගන්න. So everybody has to as a team up and we can do maybe small piece of branch level කරගෙන යනකොට so we will have a better solution for this. Profitability. ඒක ඉතින් ආයි කියන්න දෙයක් නැහැ නේ. So it's one of the KPIs of you. So it is a key element of business. Right? එතකොට අපි ඒකෙදි බලන්න ඕනේ so many things like we need to say whether our decision is correct. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි proper customer කෙනෙක් මේ වෙලාවේ onboard කරන එක හරිද වැරදිද? නැත්නම් අපි යාගේ industry එක හරිද? business activity එක හරිද? නැත්නම් future potential එකක් තියෙනවා. So that is about the business decision. Then cost of funds. අපි යාට facility එකක් දෙනකොට අපි දන්නවා variable rate ද දෙන්නේ, fixed rate ද දෙන්නේ, tenor එක කොච්චරද, overall cost of funds කොච්චරද, අපි කොච්චර margin එකක් තියාගන්නවද, යාගේ risk rating එකක් හරි මොකක් හරි එකට කපල් වෙනවද? Those things are important. Transaction cost. සමහර ඒවා නම් තියෙනවා transactions it could be one off like term loan එකක් වගේ මොනවා හරි කරාට පස්සේ disperse කරා then you don't have any day to day work with the particular client. හරි එතකොට he has to pay monthly so lesser transaction. But if the client is in working capital so you have to do daily, weekly cash එනවා, cash දානවා, deposits වලට යනවා, daily cash collect කරන්න වෙන්න පුළුවන්, LCs open වෙනවා. So I mean a huge cost involvement. Obviously you need to charge the fee on that, but you need to understand, right, that are we making enough money? What we see sometimes in some branches like they want a best interest rate for the client deposit. දෙන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම එකත් අපි කියනවා right 8ක් නම් rate sheet එක 8.25 8.5 විතර වගේ දීලා ඔන්න customer ගේ deposit එක අපි මේ පැත්තෙන් ගන්න. අනිත් පැත්තෙන් is a prime customer එයාට දුන්න නැත්නම් අපිට ඉඳලා වැඩක් නැහැ අනිත් බැංකු ගන්නවා කියලා එයාට දෙන්න පුළුවන් අඩුම rate එකත් අපි quote කරනවා. So are we doing same thing in Sumit at Galegala? Right? Means that no ඒක අමාරුයි කරන්න. Right? එතකොට අපිට කියන්නේ best rate එක හොඳම highest rate එක deposit එකටත් lowest rate එක lender එකටත් දෙන්න ගත්තොත් borrower-ටත් as a portfolio you are going to fail. Yes, you can selectively offer good rates to some deposits, good rates to some borrowers. But generally, our risk profile customer rating customer risk profile transaction tenor then you have to manipulate to interest rates. Then only you get the income. Interest income, fee income. Profitability very good in. So I have seen that many banks, many branches are very much good at earning fee income. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ risk එකත් අඩුයි, NPL එහෙම නැත්නම් impairment risk එකකුත් අඩුයි, right? And ඒගොල්ලෝ earn කරනවා ලොකු income එකක් fee එක because they are not cash out. Cash එළියට යන්නේ නැතුව අපි income එකක් එතනදී ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right. Any questions? Right. So I'm not going to discuss this further because next week we will have it further discussions. Just to recap what we have discussed in today's. So the first 2-3 weeks actually we discussed about SME overview, about what is SME, importance of SME, issues of SME, business plan, SME policies, right? So more theoretical, right? I'm not going to say that's not very important, but in general, yes, you should know what is the SME is all about, because it's easy for you to manage the environment and your sort of superiors, customers kind of thing if you have a detailed insight to these SME trends and all that happening in the market. So as a module 2, basically that we are directly into that SME credit, SME approvals, sectors, good practices, lending principles and all. So this is what we have started off today. So generally, so far we learned about a sort of best practices and fundamentals, what's like importance of credit, why we need to give loans to the clients, and what are the the errors that we could take place, right? So those are some of the ingredients, I mean in initial steps of the SME credit. So we can continue similarly next week as well. So yeah, we will continue about some of the fundamentals and then best practices, and then we will move to the type of credits with detail. You can read some more as well, and then finally we'll try to finish it off with the credit appraisal, which is most important for individuals, what we are going to do, and the companies or the corporations, that what we can do. That's my plan. So probably by next week, so we might be able to complete the module 2, and then module 3 onwards, probably maybe there another lecturer would take on take us through on the other financial statements and kind of detailed credit related evaluations. So that's all about from my end. Any questions from you? Okay, so having said that, and I'm thanking you for all so joining me on Saturday for about approximately 4 hours, spending your valuable time with a lot of the commitments from family and all that being Saturday, right? So let's meet next week Saturday on 15th around 8:30 as we did it today, and then we'll continue on whatever the best practices and the credit appraisal techniques and the details of type of credits. If you do have any questions, please make sure that ask during the presentation, so that I am in a position to answer even after the the completion of my sessions. That you are always welcome to contact me and get whatever the information on the structuring, to whatever the details that you want from the SME related matters. So all welcome. So thank you so much for joining me. So let's meet next Saturday 8:30. I wish everybody a safe week and nice week ahead. Thank you again. Take care.